Ladies and gentlemen, let's got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This is a man who says he likes logic and reality, but when his defense is playing people out of position and allowing people to score at a rate at historical proportions, and said that he's got a good defense. All logic just went out the window. I'm done. Have a good day.
It did not go out of the window. It doesn't go out the window. All right, so he is actually done. There's Solomon Wilcots joining us. He is walking away. Thank you, Solomon. There's your level of emotional intelligence. There's Solomon Wilcots and apparently a doctor that has a heart monitor.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, a lot of stuff to get into today. 913-912-4810. We'll hang out with Mick Shaffer coming up at noon. Cynthia, Frelund, NFL Network Analytics expert, 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up at 1. Press conferences, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see who else is at the podium today. A lot of stuff to talk about and get into over these next 4 hours. Some college basketball talk with a fun night of college basketball last night. And we'll see what tonight has in store for college basketball. We'll talk some NFL football. I spent way too much time this morning going through and trying to organize and just figure out and familiarize myself with the playoff scenarios this week.
Oh, good luck.
What could happen to then render Bengals-Bills moot?
Yeah.
Is there a scenario this weekend of any wins, losses for all these different teams that then the NFL says that game doesn't matter anymore? Let's go to the playoffs. I'll tell you the answer to that here as we roll along. I don't want to give it away right now because then everybody just tunes out. Well, that's all I was wondering is if Anderson spent an hour and a half to figure out a yes or no.
It's all about that TSL. I mean, we will unveil that. Time spent listening. We'll unveil that at 1:55 today.
Okay, I didn't know if that was TSL.
I think that's what that is, right? Got to keep you around for all 4 hours.
That's right. That's right. We will tell you what the answer to that is at 1:58. We'll actually break into the commercial break before Sir and Patrick go, all right, here's the answer. We'll tell you tomorrow. Tune in at a Thursday at noon. Or when?
Ooh, maybe
Thursday.
we do it
10?
Friday at 1:55.
We'll tell you Monday. Or we'll tell you tomorrow. All right, 913-912-4810 is the text line. That's how the show lines up today. We've talked about different updates and things like that. There is no more information, news to pass along from yesterday.
A little bit of doctors seeing promising signs.
Yeah, right.
So small positive updates.
But that's really it. Incremental, hey, this is a positive sign on a long and windy road that it's just now out of the starting gates to see what happens moving forward. So we'll see, what happens with that. And if anything does change, we will obviously pass that along. If we have any more information from the NFL and what they may be doing this weekend or next week, we will certainly pass that along. The Miami Dolphins have a must-win game this weekend, and Teddy Bridgewater has dislocated his finger, and so his availability for Sunday is in question. Tua, we know, is not playing on Sunday. That means if Teddy Bridgewater cannot go, it will be Skylar Thompson in a must-win game for the Miami Dolphins in a huge spot for the Wildcat. So we will certainly be paying attention to that from the local perspective.
Maybe they should consider just running the Wildcat. I worked for the Dolphins once, 15 years ago.
I see what you did there.
Maybe 10? How long ago was that?
When did Pat White get drafted to the Miami Dolphins?
Ronnie Brown. Oh, man.
Ronnie
what
Brown.
A time in football.
Oh, yeah. Ronnie Brown, big fantasy football player.
15 years, 2008.
Is that 15 years ago?
15 years. I am feeling very mortal.
As you should. We all should. All right, so let's start the show. We'll certainly talk some NFL. As I said, Cynthia Frelund coming up an hour from now. I want to get into college basketball. It was an awesome night last night for college basketball. And
Kansas owns Texas.
That's right.
The states.
Kansas will go down there, and they will kick your ass.
Everything's bigger in Texas. Basketball's better in Kansas.
You know what's bigger in Texas? Those home losses.
Those L's.
Biatch! That's capital L. Home dash big ass L.
More like the no-win state. If they would have won once, I could have made them the lone win state. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Didn't even get that. More like the L-star state.
More like the sun kick your ass state. That was the first one they went with.
Like the sun kick your ass state. It's so lazy.
You're more like the whip your butt flower state. That's right. Take that, Texas. You stupid ass top hats.
You know, if I got one that I don't know that I can say for sure, so I'm going to stick with the sun kick your ass state.
Yeah, you know what you take with that panhandle? Slap it right across your face with a W. All right, so they both win last night in Texas. They go down. I like yours the best. Everything's bigger in Texas. Everything's better in basketball in Kansas.
Also pretty lazy, pretty sloppy.
No, but I like
Welcome
it.
to the zone.
I like it.
Lazy, sloppy, like it.
I
Boom.
like it.
Welcome to the zone.
Both teams get a win in different fashion.
You could say that.
But impressive wins nonetheless, no matter which fashion those things came. I want to start with K-State.
I think we have to.
Because it's the best win of the local schools so far this year. Texas, because there are big wins on the resume for both teams, or I should also say all three teams. We've seen these teams get some big wins so far this year. I mean, the Duke win for KU. The Mizzou win, probably the biggest win of the season for them. To go into that environment and face off against a very obvious Final Four team.
Obvious.
Like in terms of margin of victory?
Both. Both. Yes, you go into that building and beat a team that probably is a top 10 team.
At minimum.
Kind of just assume it's a top 10 team. I would say probably easy top 10.
I'm pretty sure the states of Missouri and Kansas have 3 of the top 5 teams in basketball at this point.
Who's going to argue with that?
Maybe 3 of the top 3.
Who's going to argue with that? 3 of the top 2.
I think
that's how good it is. But K-State going on the road to Texas against that team, and not only just going on the road and winning. Like if they won like 65, 62, be like, you know what? That's a really impressive win. But Texas was a top 15 defensive team in KenPom before last night.
Yeah.
And K-State went there and put 116 on them. In regulation. They played a double overtime game against West Virginia, or overtime, whatever it was, against West Virginia over the weekend, and they won that one. But then they go to Texas, and they get a win in which they put 116 points on the board. They had 82 in overtime against West Virginia at home. The way they're playing, what Jerome Tang has done, we talked about Dennis Gates when Mizzou knocked off Kentucky after beating Illinois and Kentucky, and then it's like, okay, they play Arkansas next Wednesday. Like, it was a while away, but that's now tonight. And so what Dennis Gates had done to turn Missouri around into a program that was not only winning, but was doing it in a fashion that was fun, that was enjoyable. They weren't winning 48-46, they really weren't winning at all. And Jerome Tang has done the same thing. He has taken a team, and whether that is keeping a good, specific sort of leader, one particular player that you need to hold on to. They didn't hold on to everybody. You got $1 million to go somewhere else, to go down to Miami. They didn't hold on to everybody. But for Jerome Tang to head in, lose some players that are pretty impactful, to keep Noel, to go get Keontae Johnson, and to see what, Desi Sills is doing from Arkansas State. Big shots last night. Just players that have stepped up and made big shots at big moments. And that was last night. Texas tried to answer so many times. And K-State came down and hit a big shot after a big shot after a big shot, and it's the best win of any of the local schools right now. Mike DeCourcy this morning saying that, if he puts together his bracketology, and it's, we can talk about it in January or not. People can care or they don't care. But I can tell you who does care, and that is K-State, who a couple of weeks ago might have been like an 8 or 9 seed. The Mike DeCourcy says right now he thinks they've moved up to a 5. That's a top 20 team.
Yes.
5 seed is like, only a 5 seed? Yeah, take 5 times 4. That's a top 20 team in the nation that he looks at K-State and says, with their resume, how they're playing, and there are still plenty of wins along the way, because who's the team in the Big 12 that you know for a fact isn't making the tournament this year? There isn't one. Every single team, I'm not saying all 10 will make the NCAA tournament, but every single team has an argument to be a tournament team. So you've got 16 more games for K-State against what are all essentially tournament teams, and then Florida. So 16 conference games, and then Florida with the SEC Big 12 Challenge that they play. So those 17 games. And Florida certainly could be a NCAA. I haven't paid much attention to what Florida's done this year, to be honest with you. So I
forgive you.
I would assume that they're probably, good enough. Oh, they're 7-6, so maybe not. Okay, so 16 games left against teams that you say, yeah, they've got a real shot at making the NCAA tournament. And what they're doing right now, and you say, does it look like this is luck? You know what I mean? Like with Mizzou, we talked about last week. Does it look like this is luck? No, it doesn't. It looks like there's a new coach. It looks like there's a new energy. It's a different style. And even players that were on the team before, they have tapped into something. The Marquise Noel has been one of the best point guards, not only in the Big 12, but maybe in the country. In the last 2 games against top 25 teams, we talked about Kobe Brown, back-to-back games. Now, he scored 30 in back-to-back games. So getting to that 30-point mark matters because of the, history and things like that. But Noel, the last 2 games against ranked opponents, 59 points on 29 shots. That is unbelievable. Oh, by the way, in those 2 games, he also was combined for 19 assists, 4 turnovers, and 10 steals. He's got a 19-4 assist-to-turnover ratio while scoring 59 points on only 29 shots. We can talk about Keontae Johnson and what he's done in helping this program and how good of a player he is, and even the story that is in the spotlight because of what's going on this week with, DeMar Hamlin and Buffalo and what Keontae Johnson went through, probably 2 years ago. If it's not the anniversary, it's probably coming up soon because I believe that was a conference game when he was at Florida when he collapsed. So you're looking at, a couple of years ago when that happened and his story in this K-State team. But Noel has been dynamite and different guys stepping up and hitting big shots. I tweeted out this morning that if Missouri goes to Arkansas and wins tonight, the national coach of the year is Dennis Tang or Jerome Gates. Whichever way you want to go with. Because
who sounds like a better coach?
Who would you choose between right now? I mean, it's mid-season, so there's a lot to be decided. But, again, not paying attention to every other team across the country,
sure.
It would be hard-pressed to find a coach anywhere that's doing a better job than these 2 local coaches are in their first year, turning around programs that felt like they had just become stale. That felt
Stale's
like
a good word.
All the energy was just gone.
I saw a tweet last night. I think Tim Fitzgerald, Go Power Cat, may have retweeted it, but it was something along the lines of, we were led to believe over the last few seasons that 58 points was an okay thing to end a game with. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up. Jason, I don't know how you feel about numbers, but I have a couple for you.
I hate them. Let's wait till noon. Mick loves them.
K-State last year.
And seafood.
Averaged 68.7 points per game in Big 12 play, 69.0, nice, in the season altogether.
I like he said 69.0.
0. That's the nice part.
Repeating, of course.
Of course. They scored 69 points per game over the course of last season, and they put up 58 in both halves last night.
Oh, wow.
While being relentlessly efficient. Nice. 58, Beards 58, am I right? 58 points in the first half, 58 again in the second, while shooting, these are just some numbers, 60% on field goals. They were shooting 54% from three, and this never gets talked about unless it's a problem, 31 of 33 from free throws. They missed 2 free throws last night. You want to know how you string together a 116-point game in regulation in college basketball? 60, 54, and 94 percentage from the field from three and for free throws is a hell of a way to do it. They had 33 rebounds on the night. They weren't missing that many shots. It's crazy.
That's right, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Because they had very few offensive rebounds. But so did Texas, because Texas was still at 1.25 points per possession.
Also really efficient. Yeah.
I mean,
it was an NBA game.
Texas still scored 100.
Yeah.
They didn't beat them 116-70. They beat them 116-103. But that's sort of the point, that on a night when Texas was going out and scoring at will against K-State, and obviously Jerome Tang would like his defense to play a little bit better, but sometimes you just get into one of those games to where there are extremely talented players on the floor that you just say, you know what, you tip your cap. Because there was really good offense that was being played. Some good individual plays and some good offense that was moving the basketball. And K-State hit some pull-up threes, certainly. But of the I'd have to go back and look and watch the game, and I would love for ESPN to do a condensed game like the NFL does, but college basketball is already kind of condensed. So how do you really make it a condensed game? Because it's so back and forth. But anyway, of the 13 threes, how many of those were off an extra pass that a guy was college basketball open, right? Not in your driveway open and nobody around him and he can take a dribble and, dust off the basketball, but college basketball open where you're swinging the basketball, the guy's trying to get back in defensive position and you can knock it down. And there might be somewhat of a challenge, but, he may be just your cursory, let me jump at the shot, but you've got time to knock it down. There were a number of those, and it wasn't because Texas was just, wow, they're not playing defense. It was good offense that was being run by Kansas State, and Texas was doing the same thing. Marcus Carr is a stud. We know Tyrese Hunter from Big 12 play last year is a stud, and Serge Jabari Rice had some big plays that were made. But it wasn't just Noel, and it wasn't just Johnson. It was Cam Carter that stepped up and was 3 of 3. It was Devin 3 of 3. It was Desi Sills that stepped up, that was 3 of 3, or 2 of 3 from behind the arc. Tomlin was 3 of 5 from behind. Like, they had big shots at big times, and that game last night, and maybe the game against West Virginia, the overtime win, maybe that then catapults them against Texas, that then catapults them, in God, who do they got next? They go to Baylor. That's right. They go to Baylor because Jerome Tang is making his return to Waco, which is going to be a fun one, this weekend. That now catapult into Baylor. Is there a team, after last night's game, is there a team that K-State will walk on the floor and think, we can't beat that team? There's not a team remaining on their schedule. When you look at the last 2 games that they have played, and last night more specifically, that they'll walk out on the court and go, oh, good luck. And I wonder how often that happened last year. That it was like, well, see what we got. Let's give it the old college try.
I know people love college defense, but when you can genuinely say, we can go out there and put up a hundo if we need it, if we have a great shooting day and all of the things K-State did so excellently last night, they were just trading haymakers with an excellent basketball team. I imagine you probably saw the Jeff Goodman tweet yesterday, and this was as of yesterday morning, but the Big 12 overall net rankings, Kansas 6, Texas 9, West Virginia 20, Baylor 24, Iowa State 26, K-State 27, TCU 35, Oklahoma State 37, Texas Tech 42, Oklahoma 44. The bottom of the conference is 37, 42, 44 in overall net rankings in the Big 12. That's outrageous.
The lowest KenPom rated team is Iowa State at number 40. And Iowa State is 10-2 on the season and 1-0 in the Big 12. The conference rating at KenPom is number 1. The Big 12 is number 1 by a decent margin. There's a 3-point margin between the Big 12 and the Big 10, which is the second best conference in rating. 3-point margin. A 3-point margin from the Big 10 goes all the way down to the number 6 conference. So the Big 12 to number 2 is the difference in rating between the number 2 and number 6 at KenPom. That's how dominant the Big 12 has been over other conferences. And like I said, maybe Iowa State is the one, but you're talking about an Iowa State team that just made a run last year.
Yeah.
Losing players, whatever it might be, just made a run last year.
Iowa State will always be three-point shots away from tying any game in my mind. That's just who Iowa State is and always will be, even when they're not.
And as long as they play in Hilton, they'll have a chance of winning tons of games against good teams when you've got some magic that takes place there.
Shooting 60% from three.
It's just what happens. The next closest from 40 is 33, or 36 with TCU, also a tournament team that, makes some noise, and then Texas Tech at 33, which, tournament team, good, and that's also from last night. I mean, KU goes there and wins. That snaps a 29-game home win streak for Texas Tech.
Unreal.
Like, that's not an easy place to go and win, especially on a night when, we talk about Marquise Noel with 59 points on 29 shots. When Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick score 27 on 27 shots, who's stepping up and playing? Well, it's DeJuan Harris. Career high in points with 18. Career high in threes with 5 of them.
Yeah, I blacked out. I don't remember last year. I don't remember any basketball last year. DeJuan Harris, deadly from 3, right? That was the narrative last year. Deadly shooter, can't leave him open.
There's one guy, either Grady Dick or DeJuan Harris.
Yeah.
You must know where they are at all times on the floor.
You got to cover one of them at least.
And each time it was like, all right, he's made 2. He's going to miss this one, just average. Okay. He's made 3. He's going to hit this one. Well, missed that one. He's made 4. He's going to miss this one. He did not. And you're right, splash. Every one of them felt and looked just pure. So, big moments. It was fun watching those 2 games. Not easy to try to watch those games at the same time. How I do it is when I've got the 2 TVs on, when a game goes to commercial break, the other one gets unmuted.
That's smart.
And stays unmuted until the next commercial break. And then I mute
like
that one,
that.
and then I unmute the other one. So I do miss some commentary time to time, but I can watch one and listen to the other and things like that. I've gotten used to it over the years of being able to watch a couple of games at the same time because Big 12 playing on same nights and KU, K-State, and Mizzou back in the day of all playing at the same time, that you sort of get used to it. And, oh, by the way, Saturday, same thing. KU at West Virginia at 5 o'clock, K-State at Baylor, 5 o'clock. We'll be doing the same thing on Saturday.
If we could just get the split screen stuff, getting ready here. Now we're in conference play. If we could just get that whole mosaic mode you guys have been talking about for a little while, I would love that.
And by the way, that will be Chiefs on the big TV, KU and K-State on the 2 smaller TVs, because they start at 5 and the Chiefs will be in the third quarter when those games tip off. So there probably won't be a whole lot of attention being paid to college basketball on Saturday.
I'll be
but
here.
Still some big games.
That'll be on Chiefs, and that'll be on Chiefs, and that one will be on Chiefs. So
there you go.
Just text me if anything cool happens in the basketball games, would you?
I will do that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. I do want to talk a little bit about the playoff scenarios this weekend because, spending all that time, I got to at least tell you what the answer is. So looking through all the scenarios this weekend, is there an actual scenario where the Bills and the Bengals game is quote-unquote meaningless? We'll tell you the answer coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Had the power to hold his athletic director in his hand like a dove. And he had the choice to either crush me with his power of influence or let me fly with my visions for a better total program.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So if everybody can picture the Zach Galifianakis meme with the numbers everywhere, just sort of staring, if you can picture that, that's kind of what the playoff scenarios look like this weekend.
I can imagine.
With whether or not the Bills and Bengals game actually matters.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize this until looking and spending a lot of time just staring into the abyss and trying to, figure out what it all means.
Hey, that's what I did last night, too.
Yes.
Nothing to do with sports.
That's right.
Staring into the abyss, trying to figure out what it all means.
Yes, that's right. You had a gummy. I was looking at Pro Football Reference. We had a different experience. The Bengals, seed-wise, can be the 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6.
Holy crap. Really?
Did you know that?
No.
I didn't know that either. They can be the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, or the 6.
AFC South says, not the 4. That's
Not the 4.
for our crappy teams.
And the 18 teams that are all 8-8
Right.
are saying, you can't be the 7, but you could be the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, the 6. Chiefs lose and they win out, they're the 1. Chiefs win, they win out, they're the 2. Chiefs win, Bills win, they're the 3. But if they lose out, then it would be a tie with Baltimore for the division. Baltimore then, by virtue of beating the Bengals twice, would get the tiebreaker. They would be the 3 seed. So then Cincinnati would be the 5 or the 6. That depends on what the Chargers do. If the Chargers beat the Broncos this weekend, Cincinnati is the 6. Because if Cincinnati loses out and the Chargers win, they have the same exact record, but the Chargers will have a better conference record. So then all it takes is Cincinnati to lose against the Ravens, which can happen. And if they play the Bills and Bengals game, lose to the Bills, which could happen. And then the Chargers beat the Broncos, which absolutely can happen. And the Bengals are the 6. That's not that crazy or far-fetched of a scenario for them to slide all the way back. They could be the 1 or the 6 seed with so many games left to play. And almost everything in between except for the 4, because we know that's the 4 and the 7 is figured out.
Right.
Jags Titans is the 4, and the 7, 4 different teams. That could be the 7. Those are figured out. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 is not. And it could be the Chargers, the 5 seed, could be the Chargers, the 6 seed. Baltimore could be the 3, could be the 5, could be the 6. And then the Chiefs can be the 1, 2, 3. Bills could be the 1, 2, 3. And Cincinnati can be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6.
So this might be trying to skip to the guts of what started it for you, but is there and I think the NFL has to make this decision before this week kicks off anyway, I think. But was there any real path to Bills Bengals not mattering? Because it seems like the Chiefs are the team that would kind of force the hand there.
It's so close, but no.
That's what I figured.
The closest you will come to it not mattering is if the Bills win and the Chiefs and the Bengals both lose.
Yeah.
It would mean that the Bills are the 1 seed, regardless of what happens against the Bengals if they play. It would mean that the Chiefs are the 2 seed, regardless of what happens with the Bengals and the Bills, even if the Bengals win, because the Bengals would still be a game behind in the loss column. Even if they win, they would still have 6 losses and the Chiefs would have, or they would have 5 losses and the Chiefs would have 4. So the Chiefs would get the number 2 seed. So that wouldn't matter. So you're like, okay, well, there's the 1, 2, 3. But they lose to the Bills. They just lost to the Ravens. We said that in this scenario.
Yeah.
So then the Ravens and the Bengals would have the same record. And the Ravens would win the division.
Yeah, good grief.
That's the hang-up. Is if you say we're not going to play Bills and Bengals after this weekend, and the Bills win and the Chiefs and the Bengals both lose, who gets the division. Because the Ravens might be saying, yeah, we won. We've won twice. We get the division. And the Bengals might go, hey, we lost a home game against the team we were beating 7-3. And by the way, as an aside, I think the Bengals were heading towards a win against the Bills. The way that game started, I actually think the Bengals were probably going to win by more than a score. Because, the Bengals went right down the field, scored a touchdown. The Bills methodically moved the ball and then kicked a field goal. And then the Bengals' 2 plays were already at the 48-yard line of the Bills again. And the Bills had already lost a cornerback to Ron Johnson the drive before, who was knocked out on the field. And then if Hamlin was just a different type of injury instead of how significant and serious it was, they would have also lost a safety in that game. So I think the Bengals were going on to win that game. So how, as the NFL, do you go, well, sorry, Bengals, you're now the 5 seed because you lost to the Ravens, and the Ravens get the tiebreaker. They beat you twice. It's like, well, hold on, because the Ravens would be 11-6, and then, well, actually, it wouldn't be that, because the Ravens would have beaten the Bengals twice, but they would have one more loss than the Bengals. They would need the Bengals to lose.
If it was a no contest, the Bengals would still win the division.
The Bengals would win the division.
Even if they
so
lose
if
to the
you're
Ravens
Baltimore
head-to-head.
and you say, whoa, you got to play that game. We beat that team twice.
Yeah.
So if they lose to the Bills, we win the division.
Yeah.
That's a pretty significant scenario. So I was really hoping there was at least one scenario where it wouldn't matter, just to say, is the NFL waiting to see if this 5% chance comes through?
Yep.
But there isn't. There isn't one. Even if things happen as close to not mattering as it gets, you still haven't figured out who wins the division in the AFC North.
And this is a really small distinction, and grand scheme of things and all of that. We've hopefully we've made that very clear.
I think we made that clear yesterday.
But if you're talking about the 3 seed versus the 4 seed, that we could probably all move on.
Right.
But when you're talking about one team that's going to get a bye, one team that's going to win a division, there are bonuses and roster spots and coaching incentives, and then not to mention what happens in the playoffs, to where I am probably over-explaining on this front. In the grand scheme of things, it's all like where teams are going to play, and it's all kind of silly. But in the mechanics of the sport, this is the stuff that this whole season peaks towards.
Yeah.
This is what you work to, and then these standings send you into the playoffs for really, real crunch time. So I don't give the NFL the benefit of the doubt when I don't have to, but I also in this instance do not envy the NFL, the Bills, the Bengals, everyone with a really active role in this. I do not envy how they try to thread this needle, because it's going to be tough regardless of what happens next.
Because if that scenario happens, if Buffalo wins and then the Chiefs and the Bengals both lose, you would have the Bengals at 11-5 and the Ravens at 11-6. And if you're the Ravens, you're saying we beat that team twice, and they win the division because they didn't play a game against the team that's the number 1 seed in the AFC.
And from the Chiefs side, if that game was a no contest, the Chiefs get the 1 seed over 2 teams who beat them head to head.
That's right.
And that doesn't feel very good. I mean, the Chiefs would take it, I'm sure, but
because if all 3 teams were tied, if the Chiefs lose this weekend and then Cincinnati beats Buffalo, if the Bengals beat the Ravens and the Bills win this weekend, the Chiefs would be the 3 seed. But they would all 3 be tied. So then it would be, how do you break the tie between 3 teams? Well, the Chiefs lost to both those teams. Boom, you're out. You're the 3 seed. Now it goes to Buffalo and Cincinnati, who won that game head-to-head. In this scenario, it would be the Bengals, and the Bengals are the 1 seed. The Bills are the 2 seed. Chiefs are the 3 seed. And the Chiefs are now going to Buffalo in the second round and then going to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game. Chiefs just have to take care of business.
Yeah.
Take care of business, and you can't be the 3 seed.
Right.
Chiefs win against the Raiders. At worst, you're the 2 seed with a chance that you're the 1, with the Bills having to play at least 1 game at home against the Patriots, who are in a win-and-you're-in situation. And then, if they make up that game, going on the road. I'm going to take a timeout, come back. there's a couple of clips from Jeremy Fowler last night and then this morning talking about where the NFL is right now, what options may be there, and what he's hearing from those around the league and even those within the Bills organization of what may happen with that game, made up or not. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson
Dude, it was so nice. The family was gone. Wife was out of the house. I was all alone. Opened up the computer and just got into the salary cap. Oh, what a night.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Cynthia Frelund coming up at 11 o'clock. Mick Shaffer at noon today, because we have the Chiefs press conferences at 1 o'clock today. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from them out at the Arrowhead practice facilities. Let's hear from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. And here he is weighing in on the NFL and those in the league and what Jeremy Fowler is hearing. This was last night. What he is hearing about, since they have already announced that it's not going to be played this week, what he's hearing about the Buffalo-Cincinnati game and if that game is going to be played.
The people I've talked to are a little skeptical that the game will be played at all. They're trying to sort all that out, but they figured that the game would pass this week because it was just too hard to make happen once they left Cincinnati and came back to Buffalo. And now they have to start preparing for the New England Patriots. And after that, there's just not a clear path, they feel, to get that game in unless you either move the wild card games back a couple days or you move everything back leading up to that bye week before the Super Bowl. Yeah, I talked to a league source who said that Commissioner Roger Goodell will do what's right for the players, but then could also look at all options, that everything will really be on the table here to potentially play that game, but it's not looking great right now.
Let's hear what Jeremy Fowler had to say about the Bills in the front office, or at least those around the organization, what they think.
Talking with Bills people, they're a little bit skeptical right now that this game could be made up because they're all in on New England right now. They're professionals. Even though they're hurting from their teammate, they have to prepare for the New England Patriots on Sunday. That's the schedule. So they're really not thinking about the Bengals, and there's no clean way to do it. I talked to a league source who deals with scheduling matters who said that Commissioner Roger Goodell will likely exhaust all options. Maybe they could push the wild card games back a few days or push the whole playoffs back a week leading into the bye week of the Super Bowl, but that is a tall task. So right now there's not really a lot of momentum for a shift in the game.
So those are roughly similar clips, but a little bit different in the information that was there. The first one talking about Roger Goodell is going to exhaust all options and try to figure out what to do, but people are skeptical the game can be played. Well, what about the Bills? Well, the Bills are skeptical and can't figure out how it's going to be played because they're all in on the Patriots right now. They've got a game to play this weekend. Patriots, they're fully moved on. They're, certainly thoughts are with their teammate, but they're professionals. They've got to go and play. And then saying, those within the league are skeptical as to how this thing can even happen moving forward. One of the options that he mentioned is that buffer week that you get the week off between the championship game and the Super Bowl just simply goes away and they move everything back a week and there's a standalone Bills and Bengals game. That's one of the things that is being talked about and discussed. There's another one out there that is outside the box. Did you see Benjamin Albright, who works in Denver for KOA? He's pretty tied in with the NFL. I know he covers the Broncos, but most of the times that he's reporting something, he's pretty quick with the information and usually right when that happens. This may not be something that actually takes place, but one of the things that he had mentioned is there might be a random draw of who gets the seeding, the 1, the 2, and the 3, that they could even randomly eliminate a Chiefs game, not play the Bills and Bengals, and just a number generator. Okay, here's the week number. This game is eliminated for the Chiefs. You take that win or loss away, and now what do the standings look like with the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chiefs playing only 16 games?
Oh, that's wild.
People won't question the integrity of this at all.
No kidding.
No, not.
You know what? Don't even have to worry about getting the code. Just go ahead and take that Colts game. You can just have it. NFL. You can take that one.
That's exactly right. I'm trying to find the clip and the tweets that are there. There's also a scenario where they don't count the Chiefs' Week 16 game.
Week
16 game.
Why 16?
I don't know.
Okay,
That's
all right.
one of the
Okay.
things that Benjamin Albright said.
What
So
was the 16 game? I'm trying
Week
to
16 was
remember.
the Texans.
Texas.
Or, no, it was Seahawks.
You're right. That
So
was
maybe it was
game.
maybe because it was an NFC team. They're just saying, hey, we eliminate that and we go with AFC games. And then it says one of the things is using a random number generator to figure out which week not to count.
Can we get rid of the Texans game instead? That one hurt more, just to watch.
But you say that, like, here's where everything, no matter what the option is, you've got drawbacks to it.
Yes.
Because if you say every player safety, every game counts. Oh, by the way, Chiefs, you just played a game that we're not even going to count.
matter.
You played a full game, and odds are they're picking one that you won. And we're just going to eliminate it because this other game couldn't be played.
Hey,
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
We're going to kick you in the teeth. All right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you, and when you knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mick Shaffer coming up at noon. Shot clock reviews in the noon hour as well. I got a good one. And then also Chiefs press conferences, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. We'll see what other player or players might be at the podium today. Let's bring in our NFL Network analytics expert, Cynthia Frelund, joining us here in the Zone on this Wednesday. Cynthia, how are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Did you have a good New Year's Eve and ringing in the new year?
I mean, I worked, so
okay.
Yes. Which is, I really don't. The New Year's isn't my favorite holiday. I feel like I've lived in too many big cities, so like I want to stay away from like anyone driving. But I had to work, so I was like white knuckling it in at 4 a.m., being like, I hope everyone's asleep. Leave me alone.
So the ball drops, and you're coming up with models and formulas and things like that on your computer, figuring out what the next advanced stat is you're going to invent. Okay.
I mean, pretty much.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Roughly, I think a lot of people are like, you know what? Samesies. I feel seen. I feel heard. Cynthia, I'm right there with you. Just crunching out and knocking out some formulas and some Excel spreadsheets. Let's get this thing done. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. Let's talk with or start with the biggest news around the NFL right now, and then we'll definitely talk some sports and some football here. But what was your takeaway, reaction, and even since then, not 48 hours later, still with what took place on Monday night in Cincinnati?
Well, a couple of things. First off, I spent my preseason with the Bills, and I got a chance to speak to DeMar Hamlin several times, who was one of the nicest. First of all, he just loved football. He tried to call me ma'am. I was like, you must call me miss. I'm not old enough to be ma'am. We had like a nice, banter when it came to that. Yep. Always go with miss for everyone. He's just a polite guy, really like very, like a great personality, loves his brothers, like was such a good team kid. Like, remember, this is not an easy secondary to make, especially prior to the season starting. Remember, you're like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde were both healthy at that point. And, this is a 6th-round pick out of Pittsburgh, and just a really, like, good kid. Like, it's a really, like, the kind of person that you root for. So, on a personal level, it was really, really just scary. And I'm glad his mom was there, but I'm sad she had to see that firsthand. That's terrible. But, on just, like, a human level, I think, look, like, everyone – I truly think, like, there's a lot of stuff you can criticize the NFL for, and, a lot of it would be fair. But in this case, I think everyone really did the best they could. I mean, everything I've heard from my friends on the Bills staff and my friends on the Bengals staff, people weren't worried about that 5 minutes. Look, broadcasters, like, they're giving stuff in their ears. I'm a broadcaster, you're a broadcaster. We know this. Like, you don't know what to say at the time, and I don't think anyone was worried about 5 minutes. If anything, I think everyone was just trying to figure out, what is the next step? Like, what is going on here? I don't think rules were even in anyone's mindset at all. So when I'm looking at this, like, it is a nice moment of humanity. I was also told, very firsthand from the photographer and the Bills, et cetera, that the Bengals fans couldn't have been more caring, or, obviously at first when you're in the stands, you don't know exactly what's going on because, they saw it and they could see, but not everyone has we all know, we have all been to a stadium, like, you don't always get the best view. So as soon as they figured out, like, people didn't leave, they stood there and prayed, like, they tried to help the Bills fans, like, this was not, it just was, look, if there's going to be moments of silver linings, then those silver linings are something that we need to be grateful for, right? So I don't know what to expect from here. I'm watching with bated breath along with everyone else, but at the end of the day, like, I think that every single person was really kind about every team. Like, you get to see the best side of the NFL now. Like, there isn't a single person that's not trying to do the best thing. There isn't a single team. Like, every single person on every single team was shook.
Yeah, that was, one of my takeaways with that night was there really isn't, a step-by-step plan or playbook for how to go about a situation like that from a broadcasting standpoint, from the official standpoint, from the players and the teams and the league and everything. And everybody was, flying blind or building the plane while you were flying, essentially, is what was going on Monday night. And I really didn't have much criticism for the league and how everything was handled, and from the game temporarily suspended to 45 minutes later is when it was officially, at least the word got out, like it was released that it was officially suspended, which I think we all know that it took place much sooner than that the game was officially suspended well before the 45-minute time that it got out, and I don't know that there may have ever really been a legit conversation when the Bills and Bengals walked off the field to ever returning to the field of play. At that point, it was just like this game's over.
No. I truly believe that, I've spoken to coaches on both staffs. Nobody, absolutely zero people were talking about that. Like, for the most part, look, the Bills were trying to figure out what was going on. And, I give a lot of credit to Zach Taylor. Like, obviously we know he's a great coach and he's done a good job, but he also, he took initiative to be like, hey, we're going to make sure, you have everything you need. He really did a nice job of being not only thoughtful, but, cognizant that, other things could be going on that could, he was super cognizant of all of it and just really, really a good dude. And I will say, I have heard, and I'm at liberty to share that, in the locker room after, Joe Burrow made a very big statement to say, can someone please go check on to see if we're allowed to go to the Bills locker before everyone knew the game was permanently postponed or wherever we are right now. But Joe Burrow asked, made sure that he asked permission and got the right sets of things to be able to go down into the locker room. And he brought his captains to the locker room, and it was he took initiative completely, which just says a lot about the types of men who are leading teams. And these are young men, and that was probably one of the biggest, most hyped games of the entire season, and emotions running high just in general, and for them to have that kind of, I don't know, it's just nice to see that sort of sportsmanship and that sort of the type of human being that he is in that moment, and the thoughtfulness towards let's make sure we're down there with them, we're all in this together.
But Cynthia, here's the thing: I don't want to like Joe Burrow, so I don't, damn it.
You can like Joe Burrow until game time, and then you can like him again after.
I know, I know. But that was really, it was really awesome to see that, wearing different uniforms, but in the same locker room, as in it's still a brotherhood. Everybody's sort of in this together. They're all experiencing it from different perspectives of a teammate or an NFL teammate that's on the field, and something that you start to immediately think, okay, what that could be me, the next time, the next play. And there's no way you're going to get your mind right. And I do wonder, there are the analytics, there's the, analysis outside of the buildings and on radio and TV and things like that, and websites about now, Bills and Bengals, and we can look and break down the games this weekend. But I just don't know, and does anybody really know what would be going on at Orchard Park or in Cincinnati this week, getting ready for their respective opponents, where the Ravens are thinking, hey, we got a chance to still win the division. The Patriots are saying we're in a scenario against the Bills this weekend. And Cynthia, I went back and looked, and I don't know if it was just coincidence, but the Chiefs played the Jets in '92 when the Dennis Byrd incident happened, when he was paralyzed. And the Chiefs made the playoffs that year. The Raiders were 7-9, and the Chiefs had beaten the Raiders by 3 touchdowns earlier in the season. They played the Raiders the week after the Jets, and they lost by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a coincidence, that it just happened to be that, or is there really something to being able to get your mind right to go play a frickin' football game a few days later against professionals that didn't experience that on the field, that are certainly thinking thoughts and prayers, but they're also they experienced it differently, of saying, man, I'm thinking about him. I hope he pulls through. But they weren't watching somebody perform CPR on an NFL player on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. When an NFL Network, we canceled Fantasy Live so far yesterday and today. and they just made total access longer, and because of the serious nature of it. And we had NFL Now, which is a wonderful show. It started super early, so there had to be a break, just the way our crewing goes, and they had to play a game. They replayed the game where we know no one got hurt between the Niners and the Raiders, and it still was eerie to watch. Like, and I knew the outcome of that. Like we were certain that there was nothing in that game that was, dicey even remotely. So, it's going to be weird. I think this whole weekend is going to be just super weird in general. Like it just feels obviously like there's a lot, and we all love football. Like that's the thing that we have to remember is like, we get to be in these communities where we get to love each other, and we're very fortunate that, it's so out of, we don't know what, like, it's so out of scope. Like we've never seen anything like this before. So, and thank God that we've never seen anything like, really like this. So, there's two sides to it, right? Like it's the thing that makes us happy and unites us and pulls us together and gives us something to, cheer for and be excited about. But at the same time, it's like just feels a little cuckoo right now. I don't know. Like it just, I don't know. I'm just glad my workout the past few days have consisted of like walking the dog, because that feels very healing as opposed to like trying to run at someone full speed.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right about that. I should also point out for context too, as it relates to the Bills and Patriots this weekend, the Jets in '92 that next week. And by the way, news had already gotten out at that point that he was paralyzed. It was Dennis Byrd. Yep. The Jets went and beat the Bills that next week. The Bills that played for the Super Bowl that year. So I don't know. Is that different mindsets where the Chiefs were like, wow, I can't believe I just saw that, and they can't get it together, where the Bills say, you know what, or the Jets say, we're doing this for Dennis Byrd, because we've heard from a couple of Bills players already that said every part of emotion and energy 100%. And passion is going to be for him this weekend against the Patriots. It's kind of a different feeling and a different motivation.
Absolutely. And like, let's also say, like, here's the other thing. Like, and there, unfortunately, paralysis is horrible, but in this case, we still don't know what's going to be the outcome here, right? Like, at least then there's some sort of, not the word closure isn't right, but there's some sort of knowledge about what's happening. Right now, it's in limbo and still feels quite day to day. There's no, we don't know what's, I mean, at least everything I've seen and I'm sure maybe somebody knows, but I don't think so. I believe when they say, on all the news updates, when, everyone's saying that like it's improved, but it's still, he's not breathing on his own, et cetera. Like, these are things where it's really, we don't even know. Like, I don't know how we figure that out while we don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, is our guest. So let's talk some football and what the NFL has to do now moving forward, because who knows what will take place this weekend. I went through and spent too much time, Cynthia, trying to figure out, is there a scenario that would render the Buffalo and Cincinnati game meaningless? There is not a scenario this weekend that it would be completely and totally meaningless. Even if it comes close to being meaningless, it could still decide the division, with the Bills and the Bengals for the Ravens. So there is not a scenario there. There are a lot of different things that are being at least talked about and ideas thrown out there. I'm not sure what they can do, but what I want to talk about with you is from the analytics perspective. We're talking about a 1 seed that gives you the bye and 2 home games. We're talking about a 2 seed that gives you 2 home games. And we're talking about a 3 seed that gives you 1 home game. And then you're going on the road if you win, no matter what. Like, it's if you're the 3 seed, you got to play a road game at least once if you're going to get to the Super Bowl. Home field advantage in the playoffs. Is it as stark of an advantage as we've talked about it being, and the sort of end-all be-all that you do this and this and this to get home field advantage? You've got home field advantage, so you're the favorite there. Is it as decisive of a margin to get that home field advantage if we're trying to figure out the seeding, if in fact the NFL says we can't play this game, it's just not going to work out, we got to figure something else out? How do we seed without this game being played?
Well, I mean, I think the Cincinnati Bengals would tell you it doesn't really matter. But I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. This season, if the Bengals if the Bills somehow have to play an away game, knowing that, I mean, I was here, I live in Los Angeles, week 1, Rams versus Bills, Thursday night tilt. There were more Bills fans in the city of Los Angeles than there were Rams fans. Like, every place you went was this team travels. So to me, in this case, in this one specific instance, if they don't have home field advantage and they're playing an away game, like, I mean, I just think that those Bills fans are going to make themselves heard, known, and seen every single moment of the way. So while I would say for some teams, yes, it does matter, I don't know if in this particular case, given this set of circumstances, the amount of drama that would surround it, and I mean that in a positive way. I just feel like these fans would give their left arm to come, to any playoff game for this team, because especially now, I mean, they've been through a lot this season. I mean, goodness gracious, from the shooting back last season to, there was a lot going on. So while I would say typically home field advantage, obviously the Chiefs can tell you, although sometimes I'm like, well, some of these things are wrong because these are better teams, right? The better teams get to play at home, so you'd think they would win more often. But, I do think that, if you have hot teams coming to cold environments, if the Dolphins were coming to Arrowhead, then you're going to get a different situation than if you're having the Bills come to, Cincinnati, where the weather is almost the exact same. So, I don't necessarily think it would be, in this case, that much different, because I think those fans are going to be loud and proud and right there every step of the way.
Would there, I mean, I can't imagine what the reaction around the NFL would be. I mean, obviously there's going to be, I would hope there'd be some grace and understanding for whatever the NFL decides to do, as to say, well, it's not fair to this team or that team, it's not fair, that it's this isn't a really great scenario to be in anyway. So everybody's trying to figure out what the best course of action is to move forward, that if they just deem it a no contest and say, or call it a tie, and then the Chiefs get the 1 seed, I can't imagine the reaction from Buffalo and Cincinnati when it is, hey, we both beat that team, and they're the 1 seed, and how is it that, that team, either one of us is going to have to go there, plus Buffalo and Cincinnati, by virtue of being the 2 and the 3, would have to play each other in that second round, and then you'd have to play the Chiefs. Like the 1 seed in the AFC is pretty massive this year, because you would avoid having to play the other 2 teams. At worst, having to play the other 2 teams. You're the 1 seed. You've only got to play one of them if you take care of your particular opponent in the divisional round. And that's where I just wonder, like, in this year, if it was like Eagles and then everybody else, or what it felt like it's at some points in the NFC, or other years when it was like this team and then everybody else. But it feels like there are 3 teams from the AFC that can do this, and then everybody else. And where those teams play, either on the road or at home, could be the difference in, the Lombardi Trophy or the Lamar Hunt Trophy, and going home early and saying what a disappointing season this was.
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm so glad that this is way above my pay grade, because this is a problem that I truly don't want to solve. There's a lot of, sometimes it's like, the schedule. Now, that's a hard problem to solve, but I would love to be the schedule maker. That would be super fun, right? But this is not one that I think would be fun.
Yeah, no.
I want nothing to do. There's no world where this, no matter what, there's no world where this gets solved in a way that makes everybody happy. Because think about it. Does anyone really want to see this week or even next week the Bills play the Bengals? I don't think I want to see it. Just as a human being. So I don't know. Is there a solution that would feel good to anyone? Because I don't really want to see that. I feel poor T. Higgins. I think, T. Higgins was performing a routine football play, and now his name is associated with this awful situation. And do you want that kid to feel no? He doesn't deserve that. We all, I don't know if there's anything here that makes this palatable, and I'm glad that I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned T. Higgins, because our morning show yesterday had Joe Valerio on the show, and he was the right tackle who was blocking Dennis Byrd at that time. And his perspective was really illuminating in how long it took him to get over, to not spend, almost every second of every day going, what if I'd have just done this? What if I wouldn't have pushed him? What if I would have, missed the block? What if I missed that play? What if I would have held? What if I wouldn't have had inside? What if we wouldn't have been sliding to the left and I had no inside help? I would have blocked him straight up. Instead, I had to overreact to the inside. Therefore, it let the outside go. And that's when what if that wouldn't have happened? And he said, eventually, Eventually, he had to come to grips with that, but it wasn't right away. Like over the months and years, he eventually, and now he's at peace with it. But how long it took him? He said the rest of the football season is when it didn't affect him in terms of just going out there and playing. And it's almost like to a level when you talk about T. Higgins, it's almost like to a level of, well, you have to put off grieving for a while, and then when the season's over, now you can really deal with it. And that's kind of the way that Joe Valerio was saying. Well, the rest of the year, that was on the mind. That's what it was. And then after the season was over, you can start to really, dive into it and compartmentalize everything when it's over.
What a horrible thing to have to ask someone to do. I think all of it. My text messages to the players on that team, were to say, hey, take some time for yourself. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Nothing really matters. None of this matters. We love football. We're so lucky to be able to be a part of it. But, at the end of the day, your whole life matters so much more. So it's just wild. Yeah. In fact, one of my friends, my good friend from college, was Jeremy Trueblood. He actually did. He was very well. He played for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He played a couple places, but the Bucks. He was there. Kristen had a concussion, and he did false start, and it allowed him to come out of the game. And in many ways, he credits him with being able to, have a life now. It was wild. And my friend was like, well, I wasn't trying to. In fact, I got a lot of crap from the coach. It was just the opposite side. Okay, we didn't say you prevented something bad from happening, but you know what? It cost him a lot in terms of being able to be someone the coach relied on, et cetera, et cetera. So there's it is absolutely impossible to put yourself in those shoes. We've all had things where we wish we would have done something different, but on this national scale, people watching you just, there's absolutely we should keep him in our prayers because he didn't do anything wrong. There was absolutely zero level of maliciousness there.
No. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. About the Chiefs, they get ready for the Raiders this weekend, but one of the issues that we've talked about around here for a while has been the special teams issues that are going on, whether that is in the kicking game of field goals and extra points, how many field goals and extra points they've missed this year versus the teams they've played have missed a total of 2 field goals and 0 extra points. So it's like minus 23 in the kicking game for the Chiefs against their opponents. The punt return game, another fumble by the Chiefs in a punt return that ended up resulting in a touchdown. That we've seen that happen. The sizable impact of a team that's either good or, as the Chiefs have been, pretty porous in different elements of special teams. The playoffs are such a small margin for error when you're going up against these really good teams. I mean, the Chiefs, is this one of those to where if they don't figure it out, they're not going to be able to win 3 games if they're not the number 1, or win 4 games if they're not the number 1 seed? Or can they overcome a faulty special teams unit that might take points off the board, whether it be a field goal or an extra point or give an extra possession to a team because of return game, that they are good enough offense and maybe even defense to be able to win 4 games in a row, or 3 if they get the bye?
I'm more worried about the gauntlet through the AFC than whoever they face in the NFC. Although I know 1 game, whatever. But at the end of the day, look, these details do matter. I think, though, that some of the other stuff that's getting cleaned up, meaning I don't think that you're going to see as many turnovers we've already seen, right? Remember Patrick throwing interceptions up 27 points. So you have to remember all of those things sort of work together. Special teams does help you out, but for a while this season the Jets were the best at special teams, and then that didn't really work out. So at the end of the day, it all has to fit together. I'm not exceedingly worried about it because of the ability of this offense to complete those short passes. Patrick's setting next-gen stats records over here with the most touchdowns off of short passes. Those are less than 10-plus air yard passes. I think those are high probability opportunities to keep control of the ball. And I think the more opportunities and the better the run game gets, and the better Jerick McKinnon gets in the short passing, but effectively run game gets, the better off you are just in general, and the more likely you are to win. So, well, yes, I love special teams. I think it's a nice detail maker. I'd rather see the defense stop the 10-plus air yard passes, because that's an area of weakness, than I care about the special teams function.
Last one for you, Cynthia. What do you think about Chiefs and Raiders this weekend? Jarrett Stidham and the Raiders gave the 49ers all they could handle, and now the Chiefs head to Vegas to in a win. You got to win this game if you're the Chiefs. You lose this one, you could be the 3 seed. If you win this one, at worst, you're the 2 seed. But what do you think happens in this one?
Well, look, sometimes we see, and typically we see, when you get like a change like that, and when, remember, Jarrett Stidham is Josh McDaniels. They know each other. It's this dude, right? Like, it came from the Patriots. He may have overspent on him, et cetera, to bring him into backup. You kind of get that one game, like, sort of weird sample size of like, oh, we don't know exactly what you're going to do. Like, let's see what happens. I don't think we see that type of efficiency happen in this one. I will say Devontae Adams is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how they shut him down, because that'll be a key. Like I said, those 10-plus air yard passes are still a key to the potential rest of the season. But I think this is a very strong, commanding. I think I have an 11-point. I think it's 31-20 is the projection that I have for that Saturday night tilt.
All right, we'll see what happens. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Thank you, Miss. I appreciate you joining us. And we will talk next week. We'll talk some playoffs, or we may be talking about a standalone Week 19 game with the Bills and Bengals. We'll all find out together. Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Stay safe. Thanks for being so awesome all season, and we will talk next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. There's Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, joining us. Not as worried about special teams, but definitely worried about being called ma'am.
Appropriately so. I get it. I think you go, how are you, man? And how are you? You really do go, sir, ma'am.
Sir?
You really do go, sir.
I go, sir, ma'am. How are you, sir? How are you, ma'am? Just as a general respect.
You're a classy gentleman.
Yes, that's what everybody would say. It's class. That's me. Everything I drink is pinky in the air while I drink it, no matter what.
I just wish you'd stop making Beards and I call you sir off air. That's the one that feels like a little much, but you mandate it, and so try to do that for you, sir.
I made Shane call me Your Majesty, so I am starting to at least adjust.
That's good.
To how people address me.
You should hear what Shane calls you whenever you can't hear him.
Your Highness?
Something like that.
Oh. Okay.
It kind of rhymes.
Does it?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. We'll take a timeout. We will come back. 31-20, Chiefs over Raiders. She has that game this weekend. And Jeff Chadia this morning said something similar to what Cynthia said there. Is like, sometimes that one-game sample, that first game, that it's a new quarterback, and what is this guy going to do? What are his tendencies? Things like that. Okay, now you got some film on him, and the Chiefs have an idea of maybe some things that Jarrett Stidham will be trying to do, the Raiders might be trying to do. We'll find out what happens this weekend. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know what makes me nervous about today's show?
Where do we begin?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco and Beards. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer at noon today instead of 1 o'clock. We will hear from the Chiefs coming up at 1 o'clock. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and we'll find out which player or players that may be at the podium with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes today. We'll do that coming up at 1 o'clock, but Mick Shaffer at noon. Some shot clock reviews coming up at noon as well. The only update that's gone on today was from last night to this morning of family saying that Damar Hamlin has made promising progress overnight. That's really it. No specifics or anything like that, but just there's some promising progress being made. Still in the ICU, still in critical condition is Damar Hamlin.
Still on a ventilator. I saw at one point they had lowered the ventilator level, though, to let him do some of the work on his own. Something about flipping him over, because I learned this today, that more of your lung mass is like actually in the back half of your torso. So if you're on your stomach, your lungs are actually doing less work. These are things that I have learned from Twitter today. So if there's a doctor that says not really, then I should probably defer to that. But just some very, very small updates that seem like they've got little flecks of positivity, but still a lot of work to be done.
Yes, so no update on what the NFL may do with said Bengals-Bills game, if they are going to wait till the games are played this weekend to figure out what the implications may or may not be. But there is no scenario of wins or losses this weekend that would mean that the Bills-Bengals game would not mean anything for seeding-wise or division-wise.
I seem to remember something about Roger Goodell being like the next 2 days when that decision was going to get made.
I did not see that. So I was watching college basketball last night. They didn't mention it, but that certainly may be the case. But it's got to
be today, right?
If I'm a betting man, and I would go to DraftKings to do it,
and I would. If I was a betting man, and I
would bet that Roger Goodell figures something out before the games are played.
Absolutely has to. I think today or tomorrow, you've got to let the league know and these teams know what they're preparing for. If they were to do this like standalone game and move everything back a week, which I think could work in a lot of ways and would have waves of logistical follow-ups. You know, these dates have been locked in for a long time. But if that's the case, you need to be telling like these cities that are going to have playoff games when to expect football in their stadiums.
I'm curious as to what the feeling will be this weekend watching football.
Yeah.
From 3:30 to Lions-Packers Sunday night, 3:30 Saturday to Lions-Packers Sunday night, because as Cynthia said, 3:30 on these games coming up this weekend, it's going to feel weird even watching football. As she said, they played the Raiders and 49ers game because they put something on in between, sort of like shift changeover or whatever, because there was no fantasy show that they had. And they're like, even a game like that where there were no injuries, it was still odd watching these players collide and all of those things. Well, that first game is going to be the Chiefs, 3:30 on Saturday. So the feeling of the collective country watching football, 3:30 on Saturday, Chiefs and Raiders, to then how much we get back into our regular mode of just watching football, and this is what happens. And then by Lions-Packers Sunday night, we're talking about just specific what's going on in the game, this play, that play, and clock management, and what are you doing, and you made that play, and ooh, that was a huge stop on 4th down, and oh man, is that targeting? Should that be a personal foul? Like all these things that we sort of talk about each and every weekend, how much is that discussed at 3:30 to 4:30, something like that on Saturday, to then we all just get back into our regular routine of watching football and the compromise we kind of make with ourselves and understanding of, yes, it's a violent game. They get paid a lot of money. It's a choice that they make to make the money, to live out the dream, and we watch it for the entertainment with also knowing that there's a risk factor that goes along with that. And boy, are we entertained by it. And a lot of the fabric of the culture, community, even part of your self-identity is kind of tied up in some degree with what we watch in sports in our lives and certainly football. So.
And I think it's going to be interesting here in particular. It's not a perfect word choice, but I think it might be, quote unquote, easier in Kansas City because the first game back is a Chiefs game. which is going to be weird for like looking at Twitter and watching how the national world reacts to it. But if you're a Chiefs fan, it's Chiefs Raiders, and I think it's going to be a little bit easier to get into Chiefs fan mode rather than watching a game and holding your breath every time. Meanwhile, the rest of the NFL world is going to be watching this game as the first football live action that they have seen since everything on Monday night. So the world will be watching, I think, kind of in the way that Cynthia was talking about, and even, watching through the gaps in your fingers. But I also wouldn't be surprised if in Kansas City that doesn't take as long to kind of wash away a little bit, because 2 minutes into the game, it's just Chiefs football again.
Yeah.
It's going to be different, I think, certainly watching the Bills take the field at noon on Sunday. I mean, that's a whole different level, I suppose.
And it's, because the NFL world just paused.
Right.
I mean, week 17 hasn't finished yet.
Yeah.
And if you go now some place, it depends on what place you go to. Like if you go to Pro Football Reference, and you click on like the Bills and the Bengals game, it'll pop up the box score, and it'll be there with time left of 6:35 or 6:20, 1st and 10, Bengals at the 48-yard line for the Bills, 7-3, 6 minutes to play in the first quarter. Whereas you go to ESPN, there's nothing. You go to NFL.com, there's nothing. There's no score. It just says postponed. In fact, if you go to NFL.com and click on scores and click on that game, it gives you the preview of the Bills and Bengals game. It doesn't 7-3, Tyler Boyd touchdown from Joe Burrow, Tyler Bass field goal for the Bills. None of that is listed at Yahoo or CBS Sports or ESPN or NFL. But Pro Football Reference does have that sort of thing. So it's like there, at least, it is kind of stuck in time, but it's also odd that they listed as a loss for the Bills, but in the standings, that game does not count at Pro Football Reference's standings for the playoffs. It has not included that, but if you go to their specific schedule, it says 7-3 loss.
On the Google card for I just had Googled Week 18 schedule or whatever. On Google, it says there's no score listed, and it just in yellow it says suspended, but then it says 5 apostrophe how it would be written in the 5th minute of a soccer game.
Oh yeah.
And then time TBD. That one doesn't. I don't know that it implies anything, but it's just sort of yet another like weird little uncanny part of all of this that just reminds us that we've literally never seen anything like it.
Pro Football Reference. Okay.
Breaking news from Beards.
From Matt Derrick. Chiefs have signed former Kansas defensive lineman Daniel Wise to the practice squad and released wide receiver Brian Edwards.
Local kid to the practice squad.
You could say that it was a
Edwards move
choice.
Oh, sorry. Damn, I apologize, Jason.
You could say that it was a Daniel move.
That would have been funny.
Damn it.
Should have gone with that one.
But even at Pro Football Reference, looking at it right now, like looking at the quarter score, there's question marks in the second, third, and fourth quarter. I've never seen that before.
Question marks?
There's just question marks in the second, third, and fourth quarter.
Never seen that before.
So yeah, it's just like different places you go to. So week 17 is still waiting to finish, but we'll find out.
Okay. Oh, breaking news from Beards McFly.
Per Adam Schefter, no Justin Fields this week. It'll be Nathan Peterman.
Wow. Peterman.
Hip injury for Fields.
Peterman.
Ending a season. Hip strain, Eberflus says.
You know what I do wonder that is now that the acknowledgement of Damar Hamlin has happened for a lot, okay? And I kind of feel like yesterday in the show that was made clear. Of all of the other things are certainly secondary and third and fourth and fifth steps down the line with his health and the human beings there. But as there are all these different implications, one of the things that does make the NFL one of the most popular sports in the world, but the most popular sport here in the country, is also fantasy sports. And we talked yesterday, Jarrett Sutton was in here, and I said that, I was kind of proud of my fantasy football league because we went out to watch the game on Monday, and we're there with the championship Super Bowl yet to be decided because the person that was losing was down by 25 points, and he had Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. When that game got suspended, I was thinking back as we were talking to Jared, I'm like, you know what? We never talked about what it means from the like our fantasy league was there. We never talked about it once of like, what's this going to mean? What do they do? Not once the game got suspended or was officially postponed. And I'm like, I'm kind of proud of ourselves that, hey, turns out that we did have our priorities in line. That being said, some, 36, 40 hours later, I do wonder, like in scenarios like that, if they don't play the game, what happens then? Because you've got somebody that was like, he had Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. He was down by 20 points. He was going to win. Josh Allen averages like 30, 35 points per game. And that's without Stephon. He was going to win. But if there are no stats there, he doesn't win. I don't know. It's obviously not only secondary, it's way far down the line. And I'm not even in the Super Bowl, so it doesn't impact my team, except for I was down by like 40 points and I had Jamar Chase, so it doesn't matter at all. But I do wonder, like, what happens then? Do you split the money? If you do that, if they end up playing the game, then it's not going to matter because then you'll just see that at that point. But
maybe
I don't know.
You just put all the names in a bucket and pull out a random one.
Random number generator.
Don't
there we
count
go.
Somebody's previous game.
That's what I said.
That's it. You know what? They should give you the money.
Also, that's what I said. So you know what? I'll just go ahead and take. If you guys want to decide that, I'll just go ahead and take the money. So, Bills getting ready. They've got a walkthrough today. They're back at their practice facility, getting ready for the Patriots today.
No media availability, I believe, from the Bills as well.
No media availability. I don't think the Bengals have media availability, but they're
having a statement they're doing later in the day.
But a statement that they're doing it later in the day, or they're releasing a statement later in the day?
I think Zach Taylor is talking at like 5 something.
Okay, yeah, because I had seen that there wasn't going to be anything this afternoon, so maybe later on, late this afternoon. But there was a Bills player that was interviewed on ESPN, and I can't remember his name, but there's at least one Bills player who was out there, offensive lineman, and gave his perspective of he was on the sideline when it happened, and you see everybody gathering around. You start to see your teammates' reaction. You go out there and things like that. So he wasn't like on the field, but on the team. So there's been at least one Bills player that has weighed in, that has talked about his perspective and what happened there. I do want to talk special teams because that's not talked about nearly enough around here.
Got to start talking about it at some point. Do you think there's anything wrong with the holding? I just keep wondering that. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Deion Dawkins. Thank you, intern Dylan. Deion Dawkins was on ESPN and gave his perspective of all the things that was going on at that time. But I wanted Cynthia's perspective on the special teams part of the Chiefs team in these incremental advantages, and it's a game of inches and the margin for error that happens with this Chiefs team, that they aren't a team that, you look at and go, they're just going to go out and beat this team down. They're just going to have a beat them down this week, and it's going to be a boat race, and they're going to destroy insert team here. And they haven't really done that this year. So are they going to do it against the Raiders? I'd say probably not. But the margin for error is so much more, slim than it has been, that special teams could be all the difference in the world. So I wanted to get her thoughts, and she doesn't seem to be concerned with it at all.
I lied. Zach Taylor is going to speak at 1 p.m. today.
Okay. Well, then there you go. So he will talk today. So Zach Taylor talking today. Also, update real quick before we take a timeout and get into that special teams aspect of Cynthia saying not a big deal. TCU, as they go through practices getting ready for Georgia, Kendre Miller is questionable for the title game, the leading rusher for TCU. I think they're going to need him. But even if he plays, it's unfortunate that you doubt he's 100% if he's questionable to even play in the game. So we'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Beards, what's your sleep paralysis demon look like? Mine looks like Jason.
What do you mean you haven't seen that movie?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I just wake you up in the middle of your... You wake up in a deep...
I wake up...
Okay, I'm going to watch A Few Good Men, damn it.
I've seen A Few Good Men.
I'm going to watch Good Will Hunting, damn it.
Fair. I'm going to watch a movie about good men, or at least one good man.
Yes.
Is his name...
Good Men Hunting, Will.
What's the name again?
Good Will Hunting, A Few Wills.
A Few Good Wills.
Hunting. Men. A Few Good Wills Hunting Men.
There's got to be a
I will watch
parody.
that one. Okay, Jason, if your favorite movie is A Few Good Wills Hunting Men, then I will watch that for you.
Starring Adam Sandler.
If that's the one you want me to watch. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer, who does watch movies, coming up at noon. And we'll get some Shot Clock reviews as well. So Cynthia Frelund not worrying about special teams. She said the biggest issue for the Chiefs is their defense against passes that are 10-plus air yards. That's what the issue is. She said, I'd be more worried about the defense doing that in a passing league against teams that are going to be passing the ball in the playoffs versus what are your special teams doing? Because if you take if you look at it through the course of the entire season, there have been 3 muff punts and a fumbled return. So that's 4 turnovers. Muff punts that resulted in turnovers. Mm-hmm. So 4 turnovers of all of the punts over the course of the season. What are the odds of that happening in any individual game? Okay, so if you're looking at the analytics of it.
Especially with one of them being a guy who's not doing that job anymore. Or 3 of them being the guy that's not doing the job anymore.
That's exactly right. Well, yeah. And the other one being a fumble.
Right.
But yes, so 3 of the 4 being somebody that's not doing the job. The field goals... That's a little less of what are the odds of that happening in a game. Well, kind of feels like probable.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like the odds are probable because there's been one game over the last few weeks that it didn't happen, and you felt like, okay, it's fixed because Kicky Leaks was leading into that Seahawks game, and it was all good. And then the next week, it wasn't all good anymore because they dropped the snap. I looked at the playoffs last year, or the previous 5 years, of just looking at home field, teams with byes, teams without byes, what the home team's records are over the last 5 years in the regular season. Is there a difference in winning percentage when you get to the postseason for home games, for home teams? What is that difference? And last year's number 1 seeds, and what happened with them as maybe this is why you can focus more on the way in which the Chiefs are winning instead of just simply the specific wins and losses number, or the alphabets, as Eric Bieniemy calls it. So I'm going to get into those as well. Mick Shaffer joins us in the next hour, and then the Chiefs at 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know, there's a player on the Royals currently that whose final 44 games of 2018 was a 262 batting average, 353 on base, 597 slug, and 950 OPS with 12 home runs, 30 RBIs, another 10 doubles, 2 triples. And that guy's name is Ryan O'Hearn.
I'm going to pretend I heard all those numbers.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so it'll be Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, MVS, Juan Thornhill.
That's the report from Chiefs insider Beards McFly.
Okay. Chiefs Insider Beards.
I stole that from
Chiefs Insider Shaved.
Harold Kuntz.
Okay.
Seriously, I'm right here.
We've been over this before.
Haley and McKenzie are out there.
Have they tweeted it yet?
They tweeted
I didn't see their tweet.
Did they text Beards?
Do you follow them?
I follow one of them, I think.
Which one?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I do.
He has trouble telling them apart,
No, you
I guess.
follow
I don't
them
know.
on Twitter, not literally Beards. I know. Thing.
Now I'm going to go and look up their Twitter.
Look, I see Harold's also, and I don't know what time
they're probably out there shooting practice right now.
So that's the thing. Harold might just be like kicking his feet up in the media room.
He's got his photog out there doing all the work.
Exactly.
That is true.
No, that's
Nothing
they haven't
from
tweeted
McKenzie.
yet.
Nope, nothing from Haley. So there you go.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Yes, it is okay. Also, sorry, Mick. Harold tweeting out that L'Jarius Sneed back at practice today. Joe Tooney, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, all at the media session or portion of practice.
Harold's everywhere then, huh?
I guess so.
I guess never mind. I guess Harold just won today. Good job, Harold.
Put some boots and some asses at work today.
That's right. Or putting a boot up somebody's asses for not doing that.
I won't. That'd probably be an HR thing.
They're going to be the ones to do that?
Maybe you just put a boot like in front of their cubicle.
Like it's a figurative boot and ass.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yes.
just
a literal boot.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a figurative message.
Exactly.
Okay.
Gotta walk that
I'll
line.
put a boot and then a picture of a Denver Bronco.
That's great.
Donkeys.
That's perfect.
Right? Asses.
Yeah.
Boot and Elway.
Yeah.
Boot and John Elway.
I like that.
There you go. Good. It's a John Elway bobblehead inside a boot.
How
There
about
you
this?
go.
How about we do a little round of pin the tail on the donkey, but you pin the boot on the donkey. Now it's a fun party game. Morale goes up at 41, and you get your message across. Boom, Velvet Hammer.
Actually, I think I'll just text him.
Okay, that makes
think,
sense. That makes sense.
I think,
Okay, very
think
good.
Shark has been jumped. I believe Fonz, I don't know if he's going to be in Vegas or not, but certainly on this Wednesday, the Shark has been jumped.
Do you know that reference? That's why it's the term jump the shark is from.
I've seen Arrested Development.
Oh, come on.
It's from Happy Days.
Happy Days. Fonzie literally, like when Happy Days as a show went downhill, they were on vacation. The Fonz was on a surfboard, and some shark comes over, and he jumps over the shark. And obviously, on a set,
I had
props
no
and all that.
idea.
And they always said
that was just
after
so
he jumped the
far-fetched.
shark, it just got bad.
That's when they jumped the shark.
It really jumped the shark.
Wow. Okay. Very good.
See? Fonz.
Learn something
He's,
new every day.
Henry Winkler is a part of just pop culture and everyday sort of lexicon, just common parlance of jump the shark. We say it a lot.
He really has been in the public eye
Long time.
on a high level for a very long time.
He also was the winning coach in the Bourbon Bowl.
I kept
You
looking
missed
for it
it.
on my YouTube TV, man.
you
I
watch
couldn't.
it? Did
I
you
could
listen?
not find the
I
listing.
listened.
You did. Thank
I
you so
listened,
much.
and you said Bourbon Bowl, and I'm like,
and
yeah.
he just glossed over
I
it.
knew there was no chance.
There was
Yeah,
no chance.
I tried to DVR it. I tried to see if it was exclusively streaming somewhere.
I do give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because who's to say there isn't a Bourbon Bowl right now?
There might be. There's two Cheez-It Bowls.
Give it a year.
There's a Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. There's a Barstool Bowl.
There's got to be a Bourbon Bowl somewhere.
Yes.
Is there a Rally Gin Bowl?
That
Not
would be
yet.
funny, and they have to wear the uniforms of whatever South Central Louisiana State, and the other team. I can't. What were they? Were they just Louisiana? I
like
think.
Louisiana something.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure. But yeah. So yeah, I like it when it's like the in-state school too. That's the big deal. Like
Yeah.
in necessary roughness when it was like Texas State.
And there wasn't a Texas State, and now there is.
Yes, now there is. It was Texas State
That is
versus
life
Big Texas.
imitating art.
Yes, absolutely. And then in the program, it was, what was their name in the program? What was the university?
Or Curtis?
The
Dravetta?
The movie, the program.
Those are the only three people in the program.
But their big game was against Michigan, because it was the two Heisman, Joe Kane, going up against the Heisman hopeful Michigan quarterback. And Kane was not able that night.
No.
Against Michigan. So,
did you know that Henry Winkler's parents fled Nazi Germany?
I think I had heard something about that, yes.
I'm just reading the Henry Winkler page right now. His years active are 1972 to present.
Well, I knew he was Jewish based on Adam Sandler's song.
Yes.
There you go.
Arthur Fonzarelli. So I knew, and that O.J. Simpson is not. And Rod Carew converted. I've learned all of those things from Adam Sandler.
Who was a quarter Jewish? Not too shabby?
Oh, no. We've got... Oh, man, I can't remember. He's a quarter Jewish. Not too shabby.
By 1939...
Dear Abby was one. That rhymes
sister,
with not
dear,
too shabby.
We've got her sister, Dear Abby. Something's a quarter Jewish.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. We were at a basketball game, and in the arena, so you go to timeout, and it plays different songs, right? And it was college basketball, so it was during Hanukkah. And in the between whistles, right, there was a timeout on the floor. They're playing the song, and it's the Hanukkah song. And it gets towards the end of the break, and the official blows the whistle at the same time Adam Sandler says, O.J. Simpson, not a Jew. And it just stopped.
Oh, God.
And the place erupted. And some of the players were sort of snickering because that's the last thing that was played. The odds of them having to turn the music down at that part was just perfect.
Or did they plan it that way?
I don't think so. I don't think you can plan it that way. Okay, we've got a minute 45. At a minute 45 is let's do it. They're never going to know we did this on purpose. This is great. Senior prank, everybody. Mick Shaffer is hanging out with us on Sports Radio 810 WHB here in the zone. And the Chiefs have a game on 3:30 or on Saturday at 3:30 against the Raiders to start off Week 18. And talking to Cynthia, it was just kind of interesting, her saying that, I wonder what the feeling is going to be like this weekend when we get back to watching football, when the most recent thing we watched was that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the Chiefs game. Yes, the Chiefs game is the first one that the nation's going to be watching.
Random, humanitarian bowl games or anything?
Only thing left is...
There's nothing left.
The national championship game.
A lot of times there's those rogue kind of by themselves games on January 4th or 5th. Or something like that.
Is the Army All-American game Saturday at noon?
Well,
or 1 o'clock?
No, they've already had the Army All-American game.
Okay.
And yesterday they had the Under Armour All-American.
That's what it was.
So at least we've had a high school game.
Yeah, I saw the Under Armour. I saw
we
highlights.
4 kids from Kansas City.
And Lee Summit North.
Caden Green.
On the house.
And then you had K-State's new quarterback, Avery Johnson, playing in that game.
Breaking news here. Wednesday practice, L'Jarius Sneed in attendance along with Joe Tooney, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman, according to Haley Lewis of KSHB 41.
Thank you, Haley.
About time somebody let us know who was at practice and who wasn't. I like how Josh has to now scoot back to get his pin because he fired the pin at the window for Beards at the glass for him to...
It's like a zoo animal sometimes.
Respond to me! Look at me!
I don't have a talkback button over here.
Pay attention to me.
I feel like she might have had a little bit more information in her tweet than Harold, so...
I don't even remember anyone else's tweet. She had a picture of the inside practice facility.
Did it come with a picture?
It did.
Because the other tweet had a picture, too.
It did. Well,
it makes sense there inside.
The only thing I remember saying is that Haley Lewis is reporting that these guys are back at practice.
I mean, I don't know. I like Harold. I don't know why you guys don't.
I like the inside point of view when the Chiefs are practicing inside because you're up above and you can see. There's only one field, too. There's 2 outside, and you can see who's there and who's not there. A lot easier.
I enjoyed Sunday night sound off with Dia.
I hope so. You were there,
right?
She
was.
I hate
hilarious.
to tell her this because her head doesn't need to get any bigger, but she was great.
It was a lot of fun with her TCU pennant. That was yours, but her holding up your TCU pennant.
Do you know the pennant thing at my work?
I don't.
So if you bring me Quick Trip at any point, and really anything. It could be a Red Bull and a Mr. Goodbar. It could be a couple taquitos and a
Red
Coke
Bull vodka.
Red Bull vodka, absolutely. The Missouri QTs, right? They don't mess around. Whatever you want to bring me. Lottery tickets, some smokes, doesn't matter. I will buy you and put up a pennant of your alma mater.
Okay.
Wow.
And so I literally have 30 plus.
Is Northwest up there yet?
No,
okay.
because you
Looks
have
like
not
I'm
brought
getting you.
me
I'm gonna.
QT. Here's the
not
deal, though.
This Sunday,
we had the remodel.
Next Sunday.
We had the remodel, and there's no place to put the pennants.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't really want to pin them on the new paint and everything. Make it look like a dorm. I don't think they want me to do that either.
Make it look
so
like a dorm.
I need to figure out a place to put all these pennants.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've got random stuff. Like Kevin went to Lake Forest College or Lake of the Forest College, something like that. Really? It's like an NAI D3 school north of Chicago. Steve Mariucci, I did a Zoom with him during COVID, and he noticed all the pennants behind me, and he asked me about them, and I told him, you got to give me QT. He's like, well, I can't send you QT. I'm like, you know what, Steve Mariucci, I'll get you one anyway. So I have in Northern Michigan. I believe he went to Northern Michigan. And the next time I did a Zoom with him, I showed it to him. He was very appreciative of that.
Couldn't get you a gift card or anything? Like Venmo you $5
I don't
and
know.
say, hey, you
maybe
pick it
there's
up
no
yourself?
QTs out there. Does he live in L.A.? He does a lot of network stuff.
Random, like, Amazon
If
or something
yes,
like that.
if he would have wanted to put some legwork in, or like his assistant could have done it.
I don't necessarily need the Mid-American Nazarene pennant up, but if I do bring you QT, could you grab me one of these, or a pennant that just says homeschool on it?
Absolutely. I love it.
It's like,
hang that up in there.
There you go.
So him
the
and
pennant
another
that
guy
just says college. You know?
There are two people that have broken the rules. A photog who was just protesting. He went to South Florida.
Well, if he was protesting, I would have guessed he went to Cal.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. Good call. But like, so I have to go buy you some QT. I'm like, yeah, $3 of QT. I'm buying a pennant that costs $17, by the way. Okay,
and I'm having it shipped.
I'm ahead. Yes. And so he never did it. And then one night, it was snowy out. It had snowed during the show, and everybody's cleaning their cars off, their windshields and everything. And I was like dreading it. He's like, I will clean off your windshield if you get me a South Florida pennant. I'm like, deal.
Ooh, I like that. Okay,
Deal.
all right.
Deal. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to do it for a month. So
yeah,
should have
because that QT is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. Because then
it stays in there for a month.
Becomes part of my body, you know, and I can use that. And
the brick and mortar for this temple.
Yeah, I'm more holistic, and you know, the earth. Everybody gives back. It's a circle of life. Everything. So probably a month of cleaning off the windshield. So if Mizzou wins tonight, who is the midseason national coach of the year? Jerome Gates or Dennis Tang?
I loved your tweet. I just kind of glossed over that, and I was like, oh, that's a good question. Oh, they switched up the last names.
I see what you did, yeah. Because right now it's Jerome Tang by winning at Texas.
Well, I mean,
but if Missouri were to win at Arkansas,
they're both similar situations. First-year coaches bring in entirely new rosters.
Just a couple holdovers, and important holdovers. Kobe Bryant and Marquise Noel were vital holdovers that the coach got and then sort of tapped into. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, K-State lost their best player by far, Nigel Pack.
Right.
Missouri, they kept Kobe was their best player last year, right?
Yep, they kept Kobe.
But similar situations, rosters that have been turned over. K-State predicted 10th in the Big 12. We need to figure out what's going on with whoever's predicting things in the Big 12. We picked 7th place TCU in football, okay? Right. And now 13-1? 13-1 K-State last place. And they have two good win. I mean, overtime win over West Virginia team. We don't
25?
figure it's going to be, maybe they'll make the tournament.
There was a number next to their name when they played them.
But you go in boat race, but offensively couldn't be stopped at number 6 Texas.
They were up by 20.
116 points.
Texas was top 15 Ken Palm defense before last night. Now I think they're like 33rd. That's what K-State did to them, is putting 116 in regulation on a team that plays pretty damn good defense.
What was it? So Kansas State gave up 68 points in the second half, yet still won by double digits. How amazing is that? They went 58-58 in the first
I wonder what the record.
Half.
What's the record of teams
most points given up
that gave up 68 points in a half, any half, and won that game? I mean, unless you were Loyola Marymount,
Yes.
then it's like, well,
probably take it down to like 50 or 55, and the records, there's not going to be hardly any wins.
68 points and a half.
Of course, it's hidden on Longhorn Network.
Yes.
So I'm following along on ESPN, and then K-State, they'll put in big plays on Twitter, and you can see that. Do you guys know? People tweet at me that there's a way around that on ESPN Plus.
I watched it on ESPN Plus.
If you search it or something like that, you can find it.
It came right up for me. I couldn't find Longhorn Network on DirecTV because I've never watched it before, and it wasn't showing up. So I'm like, whatever. So I put KU on ESPN2, and then ESPN Plus and the Fire TV, and just
so you found it.
It was on one of the featured. It was like the fourth game to the right.
Because I can never do it through mine, and maybe I'm doing it wrong. People maybe they'll text in. I think if you search Longhorn Network instead of just going and seeing it there on K-State and Texas, instead of clicking on it, if you search it and go kind of around the system, that you can maybe find it. You obviously did.
Yeah, because I was going to switch it over to the regular TV after the KU game, because the KU game got over with like 2 minutes left to go in the
ESPN
K-State
Plus can
game.
be a lot easier to navigate than what
That's
it is
true,
right
and
now.
and also they don't have to log me out every time. Like I would like to not log in every single time, and then every once in a while, when I am logged in, when I go back into it, especially on like the Fire Stick or the Fire TV or whatever, my iPad, not as much, but I go back in and I click play, then it would say, this is not part of your package. So then I have to log out of my TV provider and then log back in, and then it plays.
Maybe you can, upstairs in my house, I can watch anything on ESPN Plus, like ESPN games, ESPN2, ESPNU. Downstairs on my TVs, I can only watch ESPN Plus games. If I click on a game that's on ESPN2, it'll say, similar to you, it's not part of your deal. You're on.
It's like, go bleep yourself.
Yeah. Like, go bleep yourself. Watch this on regular ESPN.
Yes.
And I hate that, and I've been able to get around that.
Yeah, no, it's so I tried to switch it over to regular TV. I couldn't find Longhorn Network, and I'm like, I'm not going to work that hard to find it. No. It's already on the TV up here. I'm good. I'll just watch the rest of it. And all it really, at that point, it was just like, I mean, it needed a miracle for Texas to come back down 10 with 2 minutes to play. It's like, well, they're putting a lot of points in, but it's
They
like,
put
yeah,
about
K-State
25 more points on the board, I think, between the two.
But the odds of K-State having the
They couldn't be
offensive night
stopped.
they had to then not score again, and for Texas, even though they had scored 106, to then get 10 points in the final 2 minutes, pretty rare for that to happen. So it just took Kansas State being smart.
I mean, K-State was, just 31 of 33 from the free throw line. Are you kidding me?
It's amazing.
You have Noel go off, 5'8" of him, whatever, go off for 36.
His career high.
And then was it Carter or Tomlin or it was Johnson, I think, who had it was like
Keontae
26
had a really
or
good game,
something like that. He's so good.
But it was awesome because it wasn't just like, okay, Johnson and Noel had this
all five starters in double figures.
Phenomenal night. Yeah, I mean, you've got a number of guys that were stepping
but
up.
I think only like
having
3
big
other
games.
guys scored, right? I think they only played like eight dudes, got them to 116.
8 total players scored.
That's amazing.
And 2 of those 8 scored a total of 6 points.
Yes. Yeah.
Masood
When I
had
opened the
4,
box score,
and
I
Green had 2.
expected 35, 25, 17, 18, 26. I'm not great with math.
Yeah,
that
no,
probably
you're
got
good.
me
You're
to
close.
200 right there. But it's amazing. The 5 starters in double figures, and only one of them had 10, one had 11, right? They were barely in.
That's right. So you had Carter had 17, and then as you mentioned, Noel had 36, Johnson had 28, and then Desi Sills had 8 with a couple of big threes that he hit. That were just like his threes felt like they were answers to a Texas run. And it was like, hey, even Desi's getting involved here. Texas making a little run. Oh, Desi 3, buried it, because that's what they were doing when they go 13 of 24 on the night.
The more parallels to Mizzou. I mean, they're both teams they're like, we might have to outscore you, and guess what? We're going to outscore you.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. And so it's great. I hope, if they go to Baylor, K-State, and lose on Saturday, I hope that doesn't prevent them from being ranked, because that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, because they've had back-to-back.
You'd be 13-2. They're right now. They're 30th
wins.
basically in the AP poll. They're the 5th team receiving votes. And I get it. What is there? 350 D1 teams or 400 now?
365, I think, or 362, something like that. I don't know.
D1. And so there's a lot of teams that
a lot of D1 teams
deserve top 25 status. But I mean, just watching K-State play and watching Mizzou play, it's fun. I hope it's because I mean Mizzou wasn't picked last in the SEC, but probably close to 10th, right, or right around it.
They weren't expected to do much this year
at all
in the conference, and they certainly were not expected to start off the way that they have and be, 1-0, 2-0 in conference if they can get a victory.
To me, like
tonight.
Johnson for K-State is similar to Demoy Hodge for Mizzou. Both transfers who had success at previous schools, they've just taken off in these settings.
And you've got Kobe and Marquise Noel.
Yeah,
that
the holdovers
a lot.
Yeah, although Noel has taken just leaps and bounds. We talked to him at the Big 12 Media Days, and we asked, "Hey, what are your goals for this year?" He's like, "I'd like to be, Big 12 Player of the Year. That's my goal." I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "You're a nice player,
lofty sir.
You're a nice player, but you see that bench over there? That's where all the KU guys are." And in the end, it might end up being Jalen Wilson, right?
Yeah. Or heck, Grady Dick. I mean, it could be.
But right now, Noel's up there with anybody else.
Well, in Big 12 play specifically, it's Marquise Noel.
Yes.
Because he's scored 59 points on 29 shots.
And in SEC play specifically, it's Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant, because he's got 30 against Kentucky.
31 and 30.
Well, the other one was Illinois.
And that was 30, right?
Yep. But in SEC specific play, he's got one game.
Okay,
we'll see tonight against Arkansas.
Yeah.
But in Big 12 play, Noel, 59 points on 29 shots, 19 assists, 10 steals, 4 turnovers. 59 in 2 games. 59 points, 19 assists, 10 steals.
Player of the Year lines right there. Keep that up.
He is the leader by a wide margin in the very small Big 12 sample size of these 2 games that they have played. And not every team in the Big 12 has played 2 games. There's games coming up tonight. Baylor plays tonight, and K-State will play Baylor on Saturday in Jerome Tang's return to Waco for the first time. And it kind of sucks of the timing of that game because both KU and K-State tip off at 5.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs play at 3:30.
Yep. Good
but
point.
the Chiefs play at 3:30, and those games are at 5. It's like I want to watch the build-up and see Jerome Tang and Waco and the clips
all be
before the game
roughly
and stuff.
about the same time, too.
I mean, that's right. Yeah, 3:30 to 6:30/6:45, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Around then.
And so it's and look, I mean, if you get out of this at Texas, at Baylor, unscathed, I mean, there's only one tougher road game left, and that's KU. Although I did think it was funny when somebody asked Jerome Tang last week, or between the a couple days ago, it was after the West Virginia game. Like, hey, tough 2-game stretch coming up. What do you think? You guys ready? He's like, tell me something. What 2-game stretch in this conference would you not call tough?
I mean, no doubt.
What 2-game stretch would you call easy? Because did you see, was it KenPom or some service out there? They ranked the rest of the way the toughest schedules in the country for all 360 D1 teams. The top 10 are Big 12 teams. It's all the Big 12.
We mentioned that KenPom, the lowest rated Big 10 or Big 12 team, is number 40 in the country. Number 40 in the country is the lowest rated. And I don't think there's a team that you look in the Big 12 and go, yeah, that team's not going to the tournament. Or that team can't go to the tournament.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Because the lowest rated team at KenPom is Iowa State, who was there last year and made a run, and they're number 40. And by the way, they're 10-2 and 1-0 in conference right now.
Oklahoma State would win the Final Four if you had to just play one half. And they would lose in the first round of the NIT if you had to play 2 halves.
It's funny, Oklahoma State is 9-5 and 1-1 in conference, but they're number 27 in KenPom because of how they've played, who they've played, but they haven't, won all the games. But looking at all, I don't think all 10 teams will get in. I don't think it'll be 10 of 10.
No. What's the most?
Oh,
Drake! Are you kidding me? Drake? Perfect. Did Drake go to college, though?
He went to Drake.
Oh, that makes sense.
You didn't know his nickname was
Drake just walked in with a Red Bull and a Mr. Good Bar.
Which is exactly what you said.
Oversized both.
For Mick Shaffer.
Like a Red Bull, a Mr. Good Bar.
And so, because for him,
you specifically said those.
For him, it's not just a pennant with his school on it. It's a pennant with his name on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point.
It's worth doing for
right?
Drake.
No, his real name is Drake, and he went to Drake.
Real name.
Yeah, they named
like
the
rapper.
college.
So Jason, he just dropped and he changed it to.
Jason's
they
a
named
nickname.
the college after him.
Jason's a nickname.
Is it Periscope Down? Great movie, by the way.
I haven't even seen that one. So
Okay, good. I didn't even know what it was.
With who's the actor that was Frasier?
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer. So Periscope Down, he's a really bad Navy captain of a ship.
Crack that open.
Actually, I have seen that.
There you go, little Red Bull for you. Little Red Bull.
Rip it and grip it, baby.
And there was a guy on the ship because it was a bunch of misfits. The guy on the ship, his name was Nitro, and they're like, "That's a cool nickname. What's your real name?" Nitro. But I'm thinking about a nickname. Mike.
Mike.
I like it, man. Yeah. Good. So Drake's his real name, but he goes by Jason as a nickname. Those are cool nicknames.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Drake.
I wonder if he was driving around or if he left to go get it and come back.
Even more, you should get an oversized Drake pennant. You should get a big one, like one of those World Series big pennants, not
like
so small.
you need like a banner. You need to hang a banner for Drake for this.
Be the only banner they've ever hung.
Hang the banner. Hang the.
But Drake's the mascot though now, so he can put his face on it. Maybe.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The more dead puppies there are in the world, the more that's going to dilute the cuteness of the puppies that we have right now. Less puppies means more cute, okay? They said it in Incredibles.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We'll hear from the Chiefs around 1:20. Be Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Juan Thornhill, MVS at the podium today. They are practicing right now, and at practice is L'Jarius Sneed, which is good because he's got the hip pointer, which he was considered day-to-day. L'Jarius Sneed, Joe Tooney, and McCole Hardman are at practice, along with Sky Moore. So those players returning to practice. So that is good to see McCole Hardman there, because isn't today the final day? Isn't today the
3 p.m.?
It expires in 2.5 hours for them to activate him or lose him for the season. Take me to bed or lose me forever, Goose.
Seen that one.
Oh, look at you, man. Look at
Both
you.
of them?
Both of them. I
watched.
watched the original Top Gun the day before Maverick came out, so I would, know all the backstory and whatnot. So both fresh in my mind.
Yeah, it was smart.
Good for you, man.
Thank you. Pat myself on the back.
I watched it 30 years later. I just wanted to see if it held up or not.
Jason, I couldn't have watched it 30 years ago.
Why not?
I was a zygote.
I don't care if you were a Zy donkey.
Yeah, I wasn't even a zygote yet.
You're 29 at least, right?
Just turned 28.
Man.
So I wouldn't have even been a zygote 30 years ago.
I think you were the Zy's second best player.
I would have.
So there's news in
Boy, that one took me a second.
U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
So the investigation into Greg Berhalter and his past in the domestic violence incident that took place when he was 18, that he released a statement last week?
Yesterday, he released a statement from an account that had no followers. It's the only tweet from the account, but it has been verified multiple times.
But released a statement that there was a blackmail that was being attempted for Greg Berhalter, and didn't know what it was, but it had to do with a past domestic violence incident that was going to be made public and released. He then releases all the details of it. He was 18. Him and his girlfriend at the time were arguing. He kicked her in the legs. They broke up. According to him, counseling, they got back together. They've been married. They have 4 kids. And he is spoken at different leadership conferences and things like that from his work in dealing with anger issues or whatever happened there. This is one side. This is from Greg Berhalter. The real surprising part of the investigation is not that, hey, he released a statement, so we know that. But when they investigated
that
to
was
find
surprising.
out,
Yeah, that was surprising yesterday.
Well, that was surprising yesterday.
The new
from
thing
that.
today is even more surprises.
Surprising in that, or unexpected in that, who was blackmailing Greg Berhalter? Josh, the U.S. soccer investigation into the Greg Berhalter incident and the blackmail has revealed who was the one that threatened to release the sensitive information?
So this isn't official from the national team, but this is a story on ESPN.com that came out just earlier this hour. The Scooby-Doo unmasking here reveals Claudio Reyna, father of Gio Reyna, who was probably the most discussed U.S. men's national team player who did not have a very large role in this World Cup. That was a whole storyline. There was more stories coming out after the World Cup about what was going on as those roles were being discussed. Reyna admitted not having the best attitude. I think a lot of people in that situation probably didn't look great. But the ties for this go back so far that makes it so crazy. This is from the ESPN article. Claudio Reyna and Berhalter have a relationship that spans decades. They played youth and high school soccer together. Their respective U.S. national team careers both spanned from 1994 to 2006, and their wives were 4-year teammates at the University of North Carolina. The blackmailing threats here, just to quote it directly from the ESPN story, The messages began after his son, Gio Reyna, was informed he would have a limited role at the tournament. U.S. Soccer did not receive any details about the claims until December 11th, when an executive was informed in a call with Claudio Reyna and his wife, Danielle, that Berhalter, 49, had a past domestic violence incident, sources told ESPN.
Now, I was going to say just really quickly, I saw a tweet here from Paul Tenorino, who does soccer for The Athletic, that he had mentioned the wife in his tweet, not the dad.
Yeah, so here it is, Claudio Reyna and his wife, Danielle. So that was the informed in a call with both of them. The ESPN story
that
puts Claudio's name in the headline, but they are both involved there, named in that.
Yeah, Paul's tweet just says
paragraph.
Danielle Reyna, mother of U.S. winger Gio Reyna, said in a statement that she told USSF, the sporting director.
Well, so she
about
said
the incident
she has made a statement.
I don't know.
That's what you just read made it sound like she has released a statement,
Yes.
which is different than the ESPN story I'm reading from.
Then yes.
December 11th is when the U.S. Soccer received details about the claims from a call with Claudio and Danielle.
Her statement was sent to Fox Sports.
Is that public?
That is from a Doug McIntyre tweet. I don't know if it's public or not.
The information arrived. This is from the ESPN story. The information to U.S. Soccer arrived the same day as comments Berhalter made at the Howe Institute for Society Summit on Moral Leadership in New York were published by CharterWorks, detailing how a player was nearly sent home from the World Cup for not meeting expectations on and off the field. And then a phone call was made to U.S. Soccer, which, here's the thing, with a lot of, so many parts of this, they didn't really care about the domestic violence incident. Or that would have come out, or they would have said something when he was hired. But when he was hired, Claudio was out front saying, what a great hire this is. Greg Berhalter, great guy, how smart he is, the players, this is as good of a hire as the U.S. men's national team can make. And then his son doesn't play. Well, now I'm going to expose you for
ammunition
being...
for sour grapes.
Yes, this is ammunition because you didn't play my son enough in the World Cup.
Who apparently might be kind of a brat.
I have a couple things here
if
from
your
both,
dad,
from both parents.
He's got some helicopter
here.
parents, so I can understand why he might feel entitled.
Yeah.
So more from Doug McIntyre that Beards was citing here. This is a quote from Danielle Reyna. But I want to be clear that I did not ask for Greg to be fired. I did not make any threats, and I don't know anything about any blackmail attempts. Then Claudio Reyna's statement here just a couple minutes ago. I support my wife, Danielle, and her statement. I, too, was upset by Greg's comments about Gio after the U.S. was out of the World Cup. And I also appealed to Ernie Stewart on December 11th, asking him to prevent any additional comments. While in Qatar, I shared my frustrations about my son's World Cup experience with a number of close friends, Ernie and Brian McBride among them. However, at no time did I ever threaten anyone, nor would I ever do so. So I think they are now putting out statements in response to this ESPN article, naming them as sort of the sources of this, and they appear to be denying that particular part about it.
They didn't.
We were mad, but we didn't blackmail anyone.
Right. We didn't want him to be fired or lose his job. We just wanted him to play our son.
Right.
We didn't want to release this. He made that choice. We said we were going to if you didn't play the son. He made the choice on the playing time. That was him. So we didn't want him to be fired or anything. This is absurd.
And I don't think the family, again, just to be clear, I don't think they have admitted to bringing up this incident from 1991, and the U.S. Soccer statement from yesterday said that they learned about this on December 11th, which the Reyna family has used as the date they were talking. So, I mean, the ESPN reporting here seems pretty good to me.
The biggest lesson here, if you're going to blackmail somebody, don't blackmail them with information that the person has already owned, is going to own, has already owned, has apparently talked about before.
Or don't get caught.
That too.
There's a tweet here from Roger Bennett that I also thought put it in a different, a different tone that I hadn't even really considered. He said, heartbreaking. It's a childhood friendship forged between two Jersey kids who grew up playing on the same club team, going on to rep the U.S. at World Cups, marry two elite college teammates, then fracture decades of trust and history as bloodlines drawn over the next generation. Dark day for our sport. Because I saw another tweet just a second ago, kind of blowing through the timeline of, the U.S. men's national team right now is tearing itself apart with what seems like sour grapes from the parents. And if we haven't read the full Berhalter statement about the incident from 91, I don't want to seem like we're sweeping that away. I thought his statement about how they handled it at the time and in the 25 years of their marriage since then is pretty much how you would want someone to own up to their actions over the course of 3 decades. I think Berhalter comes off as someone who has owned up to that, and right now the Reyna family, looks like a mess.
Because if this was something that really bothered them, or he felt a certain way about Greg or that relationship, he wouldn't have been out front and so supportive of the hiring and talking about how great it's going to be for the men's national team.
Or he would have brought it up, 30 years ago when it happened.
That too.
I think
or
this
at
is all
any
fair.
point in time along the way. And probably, he was probably pretty excited that Greg was going to be the men's national team coach because, hey, Gio, my son, this is one of my best friends in soccer, is now the head coach. World Cup right around the corner. Gio going to play in the World Cup.
Sounded like son might have thought he was entitled as much as dad thought son was entitled to.
Yep. The messages began after his son Gio was informed he would have a limited role at the tournament. And then Gio informed, I'm assuming, his parents that he's going to have a limited role. And then dad said, oh, no, you're not. Let's figure out how we're going to get you more playing time, son. Not what's best for the club. Not what's best for the national team. You need more playing time. Although,
also, Greg Berhalter's contract expired on December 31st.
December 31st,
Just a piece of information, because right now someone else is, I saw the name, I've forgotten already. Someone else is handling their next camp.
Anthony Hudson.
He's handling that coming up this month. The U.S. men's national team already kind of not in disarray, but just in a place of potential change. There's no guarantee that Berhalter was going to be back anyway. I have no idea how this impacts any of that, but it is a truly wild story. Even I know some people kind of have a harder time crossing over into the soccer world. I hope that just the facts of this one have made this clear. This is a bonkers story.
And we never even talked this week about Sporting and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh yeah, that never came up.
Ronaldo was close to living in Kansas City. Can you imagine just hanging out at the, just going down to Power and Light?
I think Tom Martin tweeted, I'm trying to imagine Ronaldo walking into a Menards. That really got me.
I'm just imagining somebody on the elevator at One Light, and then they live there. It's like, what's up, Chris? Yeah, was you just going to Johnny's today? Yeah, cool, man.
Imagine him walking.
See you later.
Imagine him walking into the airport right now.
Yeah.
Just.
I'm like, you know what? I've been in airports this size before. Where's the prop plane? Where's the propeller? We got a puddle jumper we're getting on here? What are we doing? What are we doing here? So not even talking. It's been some interesting soccer stuff, but that is as soap opera Days of Our Lives as it's going to get.
The ultimate soccer parents.
No, seriously.
He's a coach. You would think that the coach having to deal with soccer parents like that wouldn't act like that.
It's like
irony exists.
That is true, but oof. Boy.
Yeah, and because I don't know if we mentioned this on air yet. We talked about it off air. Claudio Reyna is the sporting director for Austin FC.
Yeah.
Their head coach is
so
Josh
he runs the
Wolf,
club,
but he is the
Josh Wolf, former Wizard.
Oh, no kidding! There you go.
Claudio Reyna, with the sporting director who was signed, former Sporting KC.
Yep.
Beasley.
Yep.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
It's all thing is just all intertwined. That is
well, and he's older,
quite
but Vermees
unbelievable.
is a Jersey kid too.
Wonder if he's got a relationship with him. I don't know, but that is quite.
Oh, I'm sure they know each other.
Believable. That story. All because your kid didn't get much playing time. I don't know. It'd be one thing if this whole time Claudio's like, you know what, I'm accepting what took place, and I know that his wife forgave him, and they've 25 years together and kids, but it just doesn't sit with me. And if Berhalter was out boasting about domestic violence, this, and I'd never do something like that, and he'd be like, all right, man, enough. I gotta say it. All right, I'm tired of this fake portrayal that you were talking about yourself and the way you look down on so many other things. But it was about his kid not getting playing time. Unbelievable. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've tried a lot of different things to get these. There's a couple squirrels that keep wanting to eat the tomatoes and my apples.
Oh, I got it. Don't plant tomatoes.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, I think we'll do shot clock reviews at 1 o'clock.
And so are we all going to do the same?
I think we all may end up doing the same.
For the
except
first time
Beards.
ever, me, Jason, and Mick have all seen one singular piece of media. It was excellent.
Have you seen the others yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big fan of the others. And this one.
And that one was twice as long. The others were about half an hour.
About
That was
23, 24 minutes.
That was almost an hour.
It was listed as 52 minutes, so which is almost an hour, like you said.
Yeah.
It was almost an hour. No, it's 52 minutes, okay? Well, the other ones were like a half hour. They were 25 minutes. Okay. Let's just come on. Let's be correct here.
Have I talked about Marvel Snap yet? Does that ring a bell? I got to decide if I can use that one or not.
No.
I don't think it doesn't sound familiar. I do that.
You could have done it, but I would have just ignored it. So
yeah,
there's
me too.
a decent chance that one of your.
If none of us
Any
remember
of
me
them?
talking about it, then I'll do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of nerdy. That seems like something
No,
really
it's
nerdy.
not. It's not. But that's what the review's for. I got 24 seconds to convince you otherwise.
Okay.
So, to go back to a conversation we had with Cynthia Frelund, she was not worried about the special teams. Okay. Last week
was the Chiefs special teams?
Yeah.
And by worried, she knows the definition of worried.
Yes.
Okay.
Her point was.
And she's been watching this year's team.
Her point was in a one-game set, she's much more concerned about the 10 or more air yard passes that the Chiefs are really bad at in a passing league, and the teams you're going up against, that will beat you more than, okay, a punt return here, unless, of course, it is you miss a field goal, an extra point, and it costs you. But her point was kind of...
The Chiefs' defense bad at it or the offense?
Chiefs' defense.
Okay.
That is pretty bad about passes that are 10 or more yards
Over
down
the
the field. Yeah, probably right over
That
the middle.
area?
Right between the hash marks. That's where you really need to
It's
improve.
funny, I can always tell an opposing quarterback if he's going to complete the pass by his delivery and how confident he's stepping into it and all that stuff. Like, and where it's going, well, that's over the middle. It's going to be over the linebacker, just under the safety. And, oh, God.
So her point being like, you get third downs, and now you're extending the drive because they can't stop these plays, and then you're putting extra points on the board because your defense can't get off the field, and that's a bigger deal than did you make the extra point, which obviously matters, or the odds of there being a muff or a fumble on a punt, considering that there have been 4 of those this year out of 16 games. In a one-game set, you got a 25% chance of that happening.
God, and have all 4 directly led to touchdowns? I remember 3 of them.
The Rams did not. The Rams punted.
And that was Sky's
That was
last
Sky
one.
Moore's last punt return. The Rams punted on that one. The Colts was a touchdown.
Right away. And this was a touchdown right away this week.
This was a touchdown. What was the other one with Sky?
It wasn't. Sky's had 3, right?
Yeah.
It would have been, I think it was another home game.
What was the other Sky Moore?
It was a home game. I can see it.
While you guys figure that out, I'm going to let everyone know, and also thanks to Adam on Twitter, for we got to correct the record. Drake doesn't have a lot of banners, but they did play UCLA in the 1969 Final Four.
No, I said that in the break. That
yeah, but no one can hear it in the break other than us,
See,
so I just had to say it in the microphone.
Break, Jason, they can't hear us. I just found
so
this
I wanted
out
to
too.
say it for like the audience
right,
also.
But what I'm saying is you gave credit to who?
To Adam Stilley on Twitter. He had more information about
great.
being against UCLA and the
I
final
told you it was in
score and all of
69
that.
they got a banner from 69. They've been to a Final Four. Because off the air, I'll now do it on the air. I joked and said, they don't have a banner. I bet Drake's been to a Final Four. Let me go and look it up. Yep. They've been to a Final Four before.
Just wanted to correct the record while you guys were doing the Sky Moore shuffling. You know,
Appreciate it, man.
Was a little dance over here.
Was the Raiders game?
No, Drake played UCLA.
Yeah, they lost.
I'm still on Sky
85 to 82.
In the Final Four.
It was a home game.
Was it the Raiders game?
It was a win, I remember.
Well, so that really narrows it down to 13.
Did you guys say the Niners yet?
No. We did not say the Niners.
Okay, that's it.
That was it?
It was the Niners game?
So,
You also muffed one against the
like I
Niners.
said, home game.
Did the Niners score on that?
Don't know.
All right, well, I'm going through the
I'll
game
let you
books
know.
right now.
My guess is probably because they punted it from midfield.
Wait, is that
Let's
faster
see.
than the internet right there, Jason, what you're doing?
I've got them all right in front of me. Right in front of me. San Francisco got the ball based on a muff punt. They threw an interception 3 plays later.
So 2 of the 4 resulted in touchdowns.
You know what Josh is still doing? Looking up.
No, I was looking to see who threw it.
Well, he's the one that
Brock
actually
Purdy,
found out
Brock
it was
Purdy
the
played in that
49ers.
Yeah, but that was Jimmy G.
No, I just thought it was interesting.
Was it Trey Lance?
That Brock Purdy, now big bleep Brock. We saw a glimmer in that game. We didn't even realize that it was going to be a national story.
That's right. We were like, hey, look, it's Mr. Irrelevant.
I was also able to Google Sky Moore Muffs, and then the first result just said, it was a highlight against the 49ers.
Oh. Yeah, you couldn't have Googled in that folder there.
Unless you've got that Harry Potter tech. I don't think the videos will play on your paper.
Not yet.
Little tree killers over there.
Not yet. Not yet. We talked about the Green Bay game last year. We talked on Monday about the Packers last year, how they lost the game based almost solely on special teams. And getting the bye, not getting the bye, home field advantage. Both the number 1 seeds lost last year in the divisional round. Green Bay,
care.
Right, but I'm just saying, Green Bay lost because of the special teams issues. Remember why Tennessee lost? No, they turned it over 3 times. Special teams and turnovers.
We got nothing to worry about that.
Luckily, the Chiefs do not have that as an issue with their team, with special teams and turnovers.
Tongues and cheeks here.
Yeah.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
We were hanging out with Mick Shaffer from NBC 41 Action News. Mitch, you were on all these, or Mick, geez Louise.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, about 1:20 or so, we'll hear from the Chiefs. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Juan Thornhill, and MVS will be talking with the media.
According to Haley Lewis of KSHB 41, who tweeted that out just a little bit ago.
Cool.
By the way, Haley Lewis's brother played football at Drake.
No kidding.
I was just in the break talking with Drake, thanking him for my
In the break, talking to Drake.
thanking him for my Mr. Goodbar that I've already
Yeah.
finished, and halfway through my Red Bull, and we talked about the handful of Drake grads that I know. He knows a lot more because he went there.
Jimbo Fisher is finalizing a deal to hire Bobby Petrino as the Aggies OC, and Petrino will
here we
take
go,
over play
Jason.
calling duties, sources tell ESPN.
National championship in 2024, probation in 25.
Bobby Petrino managed to spend less time at a job than at the Atlanta Falcons.
No,
he was the OC for
It says
UNLV for 5 minutes.
Petrino, one of the
Gotcha,
top
that's right.
offensive minds in football, was briefly OC at UNLV after spending the last 3 seasons at Missouri State.
Not even long enough to meet the players. Oh, that is just so beautifully Petrino.
He got hired on December 15th.
That is pretty good.
I mean, I went on in Vegas to talk about Petrino being hired as the offensive coordinator and what it's going to be for UNLV and Barry Odom. And Jimbo Fisher hires him, and Bobby Petrino's like, oh, yeah, I've got no loyalty, sure. I mean, I don't care, yeah. No, anybody want to hire me now?
We already knew that.
Right.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying. He's just doubling down on it.
It's perfect.
Yeah, no loyalty. But Barry, sorry, buddy, but I mean, I get it. And Barry Odom's probably like, yeah, go ahead, man. I mean, look, that's way more money you're gonna get there. It's at Texas A&M. You're in the SEC. Go do that, man. That's cool. Also, Jimbo, why? What is it about Bobby Petrino's offenses that have told you that they have evolved with the times? When he was the offensive genius back in the aughts, everybody's passed him by until he had Lamar Jackson. Then he was amazing for a couple of years offense with Lamar Jackson, and then it went into the crapper.
Well, he turned Missouri State around. They were like one of the worst teams in that league, for
He took
whatever
him-
that's worth.
He took him
FCS
from
football.
He took him from bad to first. 2 years later to
That's
eighth.
right. That's right. They dropped.
So he did do that.
But you gotta look at what he did to the UNLV offense over these last 2 weeks. I mean, he
also
could have
was-
really amped that thing up.
It's also a touchdown, fewer points this year than last year in offense. I don't know. Just saying, I feel like Bobby Petrino's reputation as an offensive guy is built on what he did in 2005, 6, and 7, and 8. And he ain't been that guy for a long time, and he's still kind of doing the same things, and everybody else has passed him by. So I just don't know why go the route of hiring Bobby Petrino when I don't think you're getting like an up-and-coming, edgy offensive guy that you're going to have the
You're gonna get
next
somebody
wave.
edgy.
Edgy is true.
Yeah, there's some edge to him. It's just in how he treats
I
people.
wonder if they've crossed paths before. If they've coached
Jimbo and Bobby?
Yeah,
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, they were both.
Look it up in your game books, and then you can race with Josh over
They
here
were
on the internet.
They were both close to Atlanta at one point. I don't know if Jimbo was at Florida State at that time or not. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, this is an opinion piece. There was some stuff connecting them earlier this month before he took the UNLV job. I think most people then assumed that he would be there for more than 2 weeks.
I do love that when you just Google search Bobby Petrino, the obvious pictures that come up.
It's incredible. What a legacy.
I do enjoy those. I'm not seeing them cross paths ever.
Not unless
I mean, they both worked.
Bobby was at Samford or Auburn or Cincinnati
They
or
both
LSU. or
worked at
Florida State.
Auburn, but at different times. Bobby was at Auburn in 2002. Jimbo was at Auburn in 98. So that's kind of feels like as close as it gets to crossing paths.
Here's a story from the Springfield News Leader, just a headline for you. Report, Missouri State football coach Bobby Petrino emerges as candidate for Texas A&M OC position. This was published on December 9th.
So then why did he take the UNLV job if he was a candidate for the Texas A&M job?
Jason, that is a lovely question you got there.
I guess just like marriage, he was keeping his options open.
He had... So Texas A&M would have been his girl on the bike.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Do you know who the defensive coordinator is there?
At A&M?
Yeah. DJ Durkin. I was trying to remember his name to make a point about how college teams will hire anybody. He was the coach at Maryland who had
when the kid passed
kid
away,
die.
Yeah,
had all the other stories that came out after it about for whatever reason I remember what they made the players watch where they were eating breakfast to toughen them up, horror movie stuff.
I don't think Jimbo's worried about bad PR hits.
No, apparently not.
Again,
I was trying to remember DJ Durkin's name so I could make the point that if anyone out there believes that you have some competitive edge, you will get another job. I didn't know that Texas A&M is just where that went to happen.
You think they care about? Any college football program cares about that.
There is a difference between being surprised and continually being at least a little bit disgusted.
Okay.
I'm not surprised, never. I am continually disappointed by that fact.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. All right, shot clock reviews, guys.
Yeah.
What do you think? You know what? I'm going to review Bobby Petrino. No, I'm joking. I am not going to do that. That's been done plenty of times. Here's my think piece. Read this.
You could probably do a shot clock review from the 1960s when there wasn't a shot clock on Bobby Petrino. Just go for the entire half.
I could.
We got time to squeeze this in still? Is this going to work? Beards, what are you hearing down the line? We good? We assume?
If we're quick and we each do one.
We got 24 seconds, baby.
Who goes first?
Jason, you love yours this week. You should do it. I like this one, too.
All right, I'm going to do my shot clock review on... Goodness, man. We haven't even inbounded the ball yet.
We're fine.
Is that Dylan back there?
Are we in Allen Fieldhouse? Am I the visitor here? Come on. All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm doing my...
You said 3, 2, 1. Why did you do a countdown?
Because I wanted to trick him again.
As long as we get through this fast, we're going to get to pressers on time. All right, let me bleep around.
I wanted to trick him again. Mine is on Murderville. Who Killed Santa? The newest one. I'm very happy that they finally came out with another one because the first season of Murderville was really good. I enjoyed it. The concept is brilliant. Will Arnett is so good. The different actors they have or actresses, the performers are really good. This one, an extended version, so I like that. You get almost 2 in 1. Jason Bateman was good. Maya Rudolph was good. I don't care if anybody else does a shot clock review and brings up any other issues. It was awesome. I laughed out loud, literally. I give it a 10. Josh, you know what, Mick?
Mick, why don't you go next?
Mick, why don't you go next?
I'm going to do a shot clock review on Murderville, Who Killed Santa. It's one of the best seasons out there, their first season of this. They should have brought it back an entire new season. Hopefully they do at some point. It is ingenious. I think they copied some British show, which is what we always do. But it's so funny. Will Arnett is hilarious. They bring on people that will surprise you how funny they are. Marshawn Lynch, amazing.
Incredible.
So funny. The girl from Schitt's Creek, not good at all. But
Whoa!
Not at all. Pete Davidson tried to ruin this for me. He did not. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, still
Even
worthy.
with Pete Davidson.
Still worthy grades.
Absolutely.
I have 24 seconds on Murderville, but I'm going to talk about Marvel Snap.
Oh.
It's a mobile game. Don't the Marvel part of it scare you off? It's kind of under the skin of Marvel. It's all Marvel branded, but it's really like a card battler game, but they all take 2 minutes. So every match, you're putting down different cards with different abilities and energy levels and everything on both sides against another real person playing the game in real time. It ultimately plays as a very quick-paced, incredibly enjoyable, quick little card battler. The only one that's ever really clicked with me. In fact, it snapped with me. There's also a gambling element. You can basically raise or call or fold. It's a 9 out of 10 game. Don't buy the extra stuff with real money. You don't need to do that.
I don't know. It sounds really nerdy.
Yeah.
It's not that nerdy. It's just a good game. Just a good mobile game.
I looked at the review. I think you got it off in time.
Thank
the ball
you.
was out of your hand.
Thank you. It was up and coming down.
Yep, absolutely. Beards?
I'm going to very quickly review both movies that we watched on New Year's Eve. So first we watched Amsterdam. Not great.
Okay, good.
The cast was really good, but it was just kind of a boring movie, and it had a weird tone to it. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. It was fine. The second movie we watched, though, was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It was from like 2015 or whatever. That was a fun, good time. I'm kind of sad that Armie Hammer might actually just be a cannibal because otherwise I'd like to have a sequel to that. That was a good time. I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Nice job.
That's a remake too. The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
Wait. What? Armie Hammer's a cannibal?
He is.
In
He
real
might be a
life?
cannibal.
You missed that whole story?
Yeah.
I'll catch you up in the break.
Yeah, he may be a cannibal. So
Both Winklevoss twins from Facebook are cannibals?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Did he eat his brother? Is that the deal?
that's why there's only one left. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll head out to Arrowhead Stadium. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Juan Thornhill, and MVS next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, let's send it out to Arrowhead Stadium. Here is Andy Reid. Okay, Andy Reid is coming in.
We will go to Andy Reid.
Momentarily, Andy Reid, we were told, is in the room, and here he is.
I'll just start with DeMar. That's quite an event that took place there. I mean, that there are a lot of things that you can take out of that from a humanity standpoint. We're all pulling for DeMar as he goes forward here. We actually had a team prayer for him yesterday with our team chaplain. So, thinking that any bit of extra that we can get to support him, we're trying to do from afar. But our prayers are also with his family and as they go forward. So, with that, I could talk about our injuries here. Harrison Bucker hurt his back. His back spasmed up today, so he didn't practice. It's getting better as we go here, but he did have some back spasms, and we just pulled off him. And then guys that were limited, McCole went out and did some good work today. And we're just going to see how he feels tomorrow. It's day by day. He's trying his heart out to get back in here, man. And L'Jarius Sneed with the hip pointer, Sky Moore with the hand, came out and did just a few things. That hand's still swollen though. I mean, he's not and sore. He split. I think. Have I talked to you since? He split his hand. His hand split open there. Okay, so, and had sutures put in. So he's recovering from that. I don't remember where we went with this. So we're off the schedule. We did this out of respect for DeMar and his situation. So, and then Joe Tooney, I had mentioned, hurt his ankle. He's practiced the last 2 days, so he's doing good there. We look forward to the challenge of playing the Raiders. We just got done doing our 2-minute work study, and one of the things you notice real quick is they're in every game. Not that you didn't know that, but they're in every game right to the end. And there were plenty of 2-minute plays at the end of games. So they've got a good football team. Their young quarterback sure did a nice job the other day, and they're well coached. So again, we look forward to that challenge. Though that it's Raiders and it's Chiefs, and doesn't get any better than that. So we're looking forward to going out there and playing them. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Andy, was there any thought that there may not be games played this week, and how you guys just kind of gone across that in conjunction with the
Yeah, so you don't know in a situation like this. So we just listened and kind of played it by ear with what the league has told us. And so we go forward, and we've practiced and we're doing our thing. So, but in this case, you're listening to whatever the league office gives you, and we trust their decision making. I mean, I thought they did a great job the other night, and that's not an easy thing, is it? I mean, that's a tough situation, and they took it in their hand to cancel or postpone a game. That's it's a bold move for a great reason. So.
Understandably, watching live at the time there, you were going to be in and out of doing things, but
yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah, it was terrible. So I felt just like everybody else did. It's terrible. So I'm just, I'm glad he's making progress from what I've gathered, like you have. I mean, we're all listening. So sounds like he's making progress, and that's the most important thing.
Coach, understandably, this is affecting players' mental makeups throughout the league, and I'm sure here too. How do you manage, I guess, and balance that with the urgency of having to prepare for a game on Saturday?
Yeah, so, with Dr. T and our crew here, we addressed the issue right away. I mean, this is real, and So we didn't tiptoe around it. I mean, we addressed it with the team and talked to them, and they know they have counsel there if they need it. The league's got counsel for them if they need it. That's how we went about it.
Andy, just to clarify, when you say address, do you mean beyond just caring for DeMar as far as these guys potentially maybe seeing themselves in his shoes at all? Or anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, they saw it like we did. So just to know that there's help for them if they need to talk to somebody, that we're available. You know, whether it's religiously, psychologically, we have all the tools, plus the league has tools to help you through that. Yeah. And coaches, I mean, we're here the same way. So if a player were to need help or the coach needs help, it's there for them too.
You've known Sean for a long time. McDermott coached with him and everything. Have you had a chance to reach out to him? Can you imagine what he's going through with these guys?
I texted him, both he and Leslie, but I've stayed away from that. I mean, they've got enough on their plate that they're dealing with, and I know how they're wired. They're great people, and I can imagine where their mind's at now.
This is really unprecedented, right? We haven't seen a situation like this. This has been such a next man up mentality in football. This is different than that. There's no roadmap to how to deal with this with players, is there really?
No, I mean, we've had people paralyzed, unfortunately, and guys have worked through that. I think everybody's kind of waiting for more information on this situation, but what they saw was obviously, devastating. I mean, that was a tough deal. I would say, I mean, it's so. You guys were watching it, so you know it's that just kick in the gut feeling.
Andy, with Harrison Butker, do you feel like you need to bring another kicker in, or do you?
Yeah, there's a chance. Well, there's a chance we do. He's doing okay, but just from a security standpoint, there's a chance we do that. We haven't quite got that far, but there's a chance you might have to do that, and that's nothing with. I mean, Harrison. We have full trust in Harrison, so I don't want to start that kind of stuff.
And McCole Hardman, I believe today is the day you have to either activate him or not activate him. You're going to put him up on the active roster.
Yeah, so Brett's going to go through that and make sure they've got everything covered there. We'll just see how that goes from here. I didn't talk to him here before I came in about that. So.
A couple more, guys. And is there anything that the team is going to do for DeMar? I know some teams have donated to his charity event. I don't know if there's anything that the team has decided to do.
Yeah.
In a similar fashion or otherwise.
Yeah, we'll just see how that goes. We haven't done anything yet, no.
What's it say about how this league is a family, the way everyone's responding and reacting and supporting DeMar and the Bills?
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I mean, that's a great part about us as humans. We come to the rescue, which is, we probably need more of that. And in a lot of different situations, but that one for sure was, what kind of unity, love, it's great.
Coach, how do you go into this final game? If nothing had happened last week, you'd be going into the season finale knowing your number one seed, knowing if you were playing starters, knowing whatever. So in light of what's going on, what the toll it's taken on each player, plus not knowing how all the cards are going to fall out according to the seeding, what is the approach mentally you take in this game?
Yeah, so we know whatever scenario, we've got to go play to try to win the football game. I mean, that's what we have to do. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered before. We would have still had to do that. So that's what we're going to do. And the players have worked through practice and done a nice job with it up to this point. So
We'll go two more. We'll go Nate and then Sam. Andy, you've been obviously leading a head football team for 24 years. You've seen just about every scenario. From your vantage point, watching live like the rest of us, just what came to mind when you saw how Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor tried to both see what their players were going through, obviously digest their own feelings about the situation, and how obviously the decision they came together to make?
Yeah, I think it was great. I mean, it was the right decision. Absolutely the right decision. The game didn't need to go on. after that. So I thought both of them together did a great job. Great leadership there. And with the league. And with the league.
Last one, Sam. And you're obviously very sensitive to this situation. You also play a game this weekend. Has it been difficult to turn the page and prepare this week for your own game?
Well, what we've done is we've tried to put our focus in on taking care, when we're doing the football part, taking care of the football part. And, that's where we've been at. So I think it was difficult that night in the morning, but, there were some positive reports that came out, and we're pulling that direction. We're trying to take a positive outlook on it the best we can in this situation. And the fact that DeMar's making some improvement, I think, is great, and he's a strong kid. So, I think, we're pulling that he pulls all the way through it. So.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good.
All right, there's Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes. Harrison Butker did not practice today. Back spasms. There is a chance they bring in another kicker, but Andy Reid immediately said, "We've got full trust in Harrison. I don't want to start that stuff." So the back spasms, he thinks he'll be fine, but there is a chance they bring in another kicker, and still no word on Mecole Hardman if he's going to be activated. It has to happen by 3 o'clock. He said Brett Veach will take care of all of those things. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
How you doing?
This affected you, seeing what happened to DeMar, thinking about it, watching it, praying for him?
I think it affects everyone in this league in a way where it really puts things in perspective. We go out there every week, and I'm not going to say we take it for granted, but you go out there and you play a game that you love and you just enjoy it. And you don't think about things like that happening. And whenever something like this happens, I think it impacts everybody. I mean, obviously, my prayers are with DeMar, his family, the Buffalo Bills, the Bengals, everyone that was in attendance at that game. But, it sent chills through my body when I was watching it. And all I did was just sit there and pray for him, because that's all you can do when you feel like you can't help. And so, like I said, I've been watching updates just like everybody and trying to make sure that, first off, that DeMar is healthy and he can get back, because at the end of the day, we're people. We're not just players. And I think everybody understands that even more now.
Do you look at the game any differently at all? I mean, other than just the care for DeMar in that moment, what else goes through your mind just looking at the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's a game. I think that's we get lost in that sometimes because we have so much riding on it, and we're trying to win championships and do all this different type of stuff. But it's a game, and there's people playing it, and I think you just continue to look at that. And I think the players, we have a good understanding of that, or hopefully you do. But I think you get caught up through a season of just how can I get myself better to win a game, instead of just taking it every single day and just taking it for what it is, and it's not promised. And so I think that's just, it puts stuff in perspective for you. But you still come to the building and you just have a greater respect for the game and a greater respect for the people around you, because they're giving everything they have every single time.
Andy Reid said that you guys had a prayer with the team chaplain yesterday. Just how you guys as a team kind of got yourselves mentally prepared, not only to play a game Saturday, but also just to try to digest what you saw and try to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, especially yesterday, it was hard. I mean, when you come back from watching that moment, I mean, I was up all night because you're just on your phone, and I'm like on Twitter just hitting latest, just see if I can just see any more updates to see that he's in better condition than the last time you had seen him. But you get in the building, you get around your teammates, and you just tell them how much you appreciate them, because you don't do that enough. As you kind of get through this week, you still have that at the back of your head. And I mean, I'm at practice, and it's like the first thing I do when I get back in the building is you go look for updates, or you ask Rick, or you ask Coach Reed. You try to do your job, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you can have that in the back of your mind, because that's what's most important.
You know when you guys should be even playing today, or Sunday, or Saturday?
It's hard for me to say. I mean, it's not something where I can control it either way. All I can do is come in here and give everything I have in the building, and then when I go home, just appreciate my family. I know there's a job to do, and you have to go in here and do it. But at the end of the day, you just want to make sure, like I said, you want to make sure he's all right, because that's what's most important. And like I said, it's a game that we all love and we all put everything we have into. but it's a game at the end of the day.
Patrick, all things considered, how difficult has it been to switch into when you're practicing into football mode, or does that serve you guys as maybe a helpful distraction just by getting back to work?
Yeah, it can be a little bit of a distraction, just because when you're playing, you're focused on the play and everything like that. But like you said, when you get to the sidelines, or if you when you're in between plays at practice, I mean, that's still there a little bit. And so all you can do is hope and pray that you get good updates every single time one comes out, and that whenever he's healthy, we can move forward and continue to play this game that we all love.
You're pretty close, I think, to Josh and I suppose to Mitch still also. I wonder if you've been in touch directly with either of those guys or any other guys?
Yeah. I just texted them and said I was praying for them and their team. I mean, obviously it impacts us, but I mean, when they're guys that you go to work with every single day, you're brothers. I mean, people say it, but you are brothers. You see these people more than sometimes in your family, and so you build this brotherhood. And I just wanted to let them know that I'm doing whatever I can from far away to pray for them and just be with them. And luckily, they have great leaders over there, and I'm sure they've grown even closer from this, and they're going to continue to do whatever they can to help DeMar and his family.
Patrick, how different is it going to be for everybody in this league when y'all just touch the field just for warm-ups or just leading up to the game this weekend?
I mean, it's hard to say. We're going to be the first game back, and so it's hard to say. I mean, there's a job that you have to do. You put all this work in for months to try to go out there and play your best football. But when you get on that field, I'm sure it'll be a little bit of a weird feeling because it was such a scary incident that was terrifying that I think everybody saw. And so we will see when we get out there, but I know our guys will just get out there, and hopefully when we get to play in the game again, it can be fun and everybody can enjoy it like we have our whole lives.
Patrick, obviously injuries are a part of the game, and every time you go on the field, you recognize that. But do you really think, like when you go on the field, that something like this could happen to you?
I mean, people say it, and you've seen injuries happen that have been major injuries and stuff like that. But I had never seen anything where someone had been getting CPR and stuff like that on the field. I don't think I don't know any of us have seen it. It hadn't happened in such a long time. And you don't think about that stuff when you're stepping on the field. You think about how can I win the game? How can I do this and this? And like I said, it puts in perspective that when you go on that field, that anything can happen. And so you got to take this game for what it is. You got to enjoy it, have fun, leave everything you have out there. But at the same time, it's just a game. And when we say that, we have to know that we're going out there and we are putting our lives on the line. And I think we forget that because we've done it so many times and nothing's happened.
Okay, yes. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Patrick Mahomes press conference brought to you by Xfinity Sports Zone. Xfinity Sports Zone, the ultimate sports hub experience, only from Xfinity. By Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park, the only Volvo dealership in Kansas City, where luxury and safety meet. Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park at 78th and Metcalf or PremierVolvoCarsOverlandPark.com. And by Westlake Ace Hardware. Visit your local Westlake Ace Hardware today. Online at WestlakeHardware.com. Westlake Ace Hardware. Small projects, big know-how. Ask away.
All right, so Patrick Mahomes at the podium. We'll hear from Juan Thornhill and MVS when they get to the podium here very soon. But all the questions about what took place on Monday night, as expected, and Patrick Mahomes, his perspective, what the team's perspective was, what's been going on in practice, what's going to happen on Saturday, the prep work, the thought process in your mind as you walk out on the field for the first time since watching that happen. Have you ever thought about something like this could happen as opposed to, hey, injuries are a possibility? One of the interesting parts was when he said that the practice can be a little distraction from what's going on.
A lot of times the football can serve as therapy there.
Right. And then he was saying, but then you would ask Rick or Andy, like, what are the updates? You're going to Twitter, what are the updates? And he even said, in between like plays when you're on the sidelines, you start thinking about it again. And that's really interesting because that's the Chiefs that weren't directly impacted like the Bengals and Bills were, that if the Chiefs are sitting there trying to go through prep work for the Raiders and it's in the back of their mind, of what's going on. Like it's all across the league, and certainly in Buffalo and Cincinnati. Here's Juan Thornhill.
It's really scary when things like that happen on the football field, knowing that we play the same exact sport as him. It's a contact sport, and it's scary because it can affect us. It can be us that's in that same exact situation. So all I can do right now is just pray for DeMar and hope that he gets better and hope that it doesn't happen anymore this season.
Playing safety, making tackles, you never think about that, I'm sure. But seeing what happened, I'm sure you were watching.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of thoughts went through your mind about the way you play the game?
I don't really think it's going to slow me down at all. I'm going to keep playing the sport the way that I've always been taught to play, and that's fast and physical. But it helps you think a little bit more about what you're doing, how you're going to go in and tackle, keeping your head up, just trying to prevent things like that. But I feel like what happened with him was a freakish accident, and that's something that you can't control. So, like I said, I'm just going to continue playing the way that I play.
Well, you guys played in the same conference in college. I was wondering if you maybe remember playing against him, and did you get to know him by chance?
I did not. I didn't even know that he played for Pitt until everything that happened. But I just looked into it a little bit and saw that he played, but I don't remember playing against him at all.
Coach Reed mentioned you guys had a prayer with the team chaplain yesterday. What's just been the overall sentiment of the team trying to gather around together and pray for DeMar, but also realize that Saturday you got to kind of turn your focus to a game?
You have to focus on two things. Obviously, this is a brotherhood. Everyone comes together. We want everyone to stay safe, so we had a team prayer, and we're trying to stay focused because we have to play the Raiders. The Raiders are a really good team, and that's not a team that you can just push aside. So we're gonna have to focus in and also just continue praying for DeMar's health.
Do you feel it's hard for all the players to even step out on the field Saturday?
It could possibly affect some players just knowing that guys might step on the field trying to play a little tentative just because they don't want things like that to happen. But it's just part of the game. This is a game that we play. We know what we sign up for. Guys go out there and we're physical every single day. So just hopefully that everyone can stay healthy and safe.
Well, you might think about injuries, but certainly I don't think any of us ever thought about somebody getting CPR on the field.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Honestly, when I saw it, I watched it multiple times just trying to figure out what was going on. And when it first happened, we kind of brainwashed to think that it's always about someone's head. And that's what I thought it was, but then I slowed it down a little bit. His head really wasn't even hit. I saw him stand up, he looked fine, and then he fainted and passed out, and that was really scary. It definitely touched me when I was watching that, and I was praying for him all night.
Well, you guys are obviously a tight-knit group. How important is it to check in on each other because you just don't know how different people handle traumatic situations?
It's huge. Mental health is everything, obviously. You have to always check up on your brothers because it can be a struggle. It can affect someone else differently than others. So just constantly checking up on them, see how things are going, just to make sure that their mind is in the right place, and bring your brother along if they're not in the right place, and just let them know that you're there for them.
Do you feel like this is something that would have some of the guys do I want to continue doing this?
I definitely do. There might be some guys that's on the back end of their career, I think that will affect them a little bit more. But if there's the type of guys that just letting that affect them, I hope they can come to me and talk to me, because I'll let them know that it'll be okay, and let them know that it's fine to continue playing, because things like that could happen. You can go out here and get in a car accident that can stop you from playing football. Things like that can happen any day, anywhere.
You've really grown into one of the defensive leaders in the room. Did you do anything extra intentionally this week just to make sure guys knew that you personally were around?
I really didn't do anything extra. We just talked about what happened, and like y'all have already been saying, just making sure that everyone's mind is right and make sure everyone's mind is clear, and that's pretty much all I can do, and just keep bringing guys together and continue to pray for his health.
Juan, you guys are a brotherhood on and off the field, right? Have you been able to reach out to any of the Bills players?
No, I haven't. I've been seeing a bunch of guys post and things like that. The only thing I really do is just I'll post a heart just to let them know that I see what they're going through. But I really haven't talked to a lot of guys for Buffalo.
Well, I can't imagine how easy it's going to be to go over a game plan. Maybe that's a good distraction to get your mind off of other things. But when you look at the Raiders, they're a little different than the last time you faced them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can focus on the game, what are you looking at with this other quarterback?
He's a really good quarterback. We see him as a gunslinger. The guy, he's super confident. You would think that since he was a backup, he'll come in and be a little shaky. But I watched the game last week, and I mean, he stepped up and played like a heck of a game. I think he played like one of the best games probably that they had all season. I think he can control it. He can move the ball. And we just have to focus in and show up to play because the Raiders are a really good team.
Okay, thanks, Juan.
All right.
All right, there's Juan Thornhill. We'll hear from MVS coming up to the podium. Juan Thornhill also talking about focus, trying to focus on two things. Damar Hamlin also focusing on the Raiders and getting ready for them and talking with defensive backs and other guys. And interesting, he was asked, do you think this might affect somebody in their career? Like, do I want to go through with this? And he said, yeah, I think it will. Maybe guys in the back end of their career saying, do I want to play one more year or just hang it up? And then the perspective that he brought and said, well, if there are any other guys that are thinking about it, then come to me. And, I can talk to them that, this was a scary accident, but anything can happen. You can leave here and get in a car accident and never play football again. Yeah. So, it's just sort of life and going through it a certain way and trying to take advantage of the time you have knowing that, it's fleeting.
Yeah. Look, football didn't become more unsafe after Monday. I'd known them before I looked them back up. I think on average it's around 4 million kids, college age, high school adults play football, and between 15 and 20 deaths a year. Now, the majority of those are heart-related and not necessarily hit-related. We don't necessarily know which one it was in this situation, and it's actually down because used to there were so many heat strokes in the field. Now, right now we have a better handle on that, and so it's a rare occurrence. But one of the rarest things and the craziest thing about this is that one of these occurred on maybe the biggest game of the year in the NFL, where everybody is watching on Monday Night Football. And so if it's out of sight, out of mind, you maybe hear about it or don't hear about it, it's not going to affect you, whether you're a player, fan, or whatever. But when it does, it does affect you.
Yeah. Here's MVS.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all play this game and we put our lives on the line. And, to see one of our, football brothers, in this fraternity of football go down like that and, lose his life, it's hard. We put our lives on the line every single play, and a lot of people take that for granted. And it's tough to see. It's tough to sleep at night because that could have been any one of us. It could have been myself, any one of those guys in the locker room. And I think every football player, around the country felt that.
Andy Reid mentioned you guys had a team prayer yesterday. Just how's the team kind of unifying in your eyes, trying to get together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's tough, man, because we still have to go to work, and but we still feel that, and it's not a second that goes by that we don't think about us being in that position or how he's doing or how his health is doing, because any given play that could be any one of us. So trying to balance, getting ready for Vegas and, seeing a young man fight for his life is tough to do.
Do you want to play, Marquez? Do you want to play on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a game, that I love, and I, never take those, games for granted. I pray before I walk on the field every single Sunday, or Saturday in this case, just for, my health and my teammates' health and everybody who plays these games' health. So it's still a dream of mine that I, still take, very serious. And obviously, health is the first thing that we all think about when we step on the field. But when you get out there and you start to, put those fears and doubts, that's when more injuries happen. So we try to take those worries and fears and anxieties out. But at the end of the day, our health is the most important thing. So.
How important has it been to check in on each other just because you don't know how everyone handles traumatic situations?
No, I mean, I think it's more important now than ever because, as football players, we're taught to be tough and not let anything affect us and have thick skin and, battle through adversity. But that was real life. Obviously football is football. You can, get on Twitter and let whatever anyone wants to say about you, about your gameplay, not affect you. But when you see a young man, fight for his life, that's far more important. So I think just being able to call on your brother and say, hey, man, you can lean on me, or, hit me up if you need something is huge.
Marquez, as a pass catcher, that's one of the more dangerous positions that you're playing. And so how important is it that you find a way to stay locked in the game Saturday just for your own safety and just making sure that you're okay?
I mean, you just play the game how you've always played it. You know, that was a routine play. You know, that no one would expected that to be the outcome of it. You know, we thought it was a normal play that we've seen a million times. You know, so you can't go in there with fears that it can happen to you, because it can happen to you, but it can happen to you on a routine play or a big hit. You know, so it's a part of the game. But obviously, we don't want to see anyone, you know, in that position ever again.
You mentioned earlier on Twitter, actually, you mentioned that nobody takes this stuff for granted sometimes with the human. Do you feel that sometimes we as fans and the journalists and everything, sometimes you just step back and realize, all right, you guys are human? Do you feel that happens enough? Or
No, I don't think it happens nearly enough. I think they see us as numbers on a jersey playing for a football team, you know, their favorite team. And, you know, I respect that as, you know, as a fan, but we are people too. And I think that gets lost in translation quite a bit because they forget that we're human beings with feelings and families and friends and emotions. And we're not just a number on the back of the jersey or Chiefs on the front of the jersey.
Marquez, the Chiefs game will be the first game since this happened, and Patrick kind of confided that it might be weird stepping out on the field with that. You kind of anticipate fighting some feelings, stepping out on the field, and get yourself locked before you can get locked in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be, you know, high anxiety for both sides just because of what we've all just experienced, you know, 5 or 6 days prior, where we all, you know, we're all locked in on the game to see what was going to happen. That was an important game for everybody. And then to see it all just not matter anymore and see a young man fight for his life, there's obviously going to be some high anxiety in that regard.
Okay, thanks, Marquez.
Thanks,
Marquez.
All right, there's MVS, Juan Thornhill, Patrick Mahomes, and Andy Reid talking with the media. I believe maybe only 1 or 2 questions about the actual Raiders coming up this weekend, which was expected. Actually, I would have guessed there probably would have been 1 or 2 more, maybe like 1 question for each person. But we knew that the large majority, the chunk of those conversations were going to be about what happened on Monday, and then how do you get your mind right to go and play a game. And it seems like the players and the coaches today, what you read and hear from around the league, Nick Sirianni, Mike Vrabel, just name a coach or a player that has talked at the podium, it's kind of universal of, well, we're trying to focus on practice and everything, but that's in the back of our mind of what's going on. And you know, we're professionals, so you got to get your mind right, but there's the doubt, or there's the concern, or there's the worry. Like this is just a random thought of like the football this weekend, but I wonder if we might see a bad product this weekend. Like people may or may not care about that because we're talking about somebody's life, but if you've got a whole league wondering, what am I doing? Or am I paying attention? Am I focusing on this? I don't know. It's just a random thought that everything that I've read and seen from players, it's sort of the same thing and it's understandable of like, yeah, I know I'm doing the same thing that guy did. And he didn't step out on the field in the first quarter thinking that he'd be taken away in an ambulance and would be sedated, and it's still, you know, unconscious right now. And you got to go out there and do the same thing. And it's your job. You choose to play the game. You get paid a lot of money, but there's also your health. And if you don't have that, you don't have a lot.
I liked Andy's answer about, okay, when we're off the field, we're going to address this. We're not going to hide it. We're not going to throw it to the rug and say, hey, you got to focus just on football. We're going to take it head on, and then on the field it's going to be about football. And look, we're all like evolved human beings. I think we can, quote unquote, focus on more than one thing throughout a week. And call me a cynic, but I think most of the players have other stuff going on besides game prep each week to where, you know, you can focus on you can multitask.
Only
right?
Kyler Murray. Everybody else is full on studying. Kyler Murray's a video game, but other than that, everybody else is full on studying every single day.
I think they can take those, whatever it is, 2 hours on the football field, a few hours a day, you know, looking at film and being in meeting rooms, and then get away from it and have concern and have worry and follow this story, yet still put a good product and a good effort out on the football field this weekend.
I wonder what it would do for morale of the league if we get word tomorrow or Friday that, you know, he's turned a corner or he's awake, he's breathing, like what that does for like everybody then going, okay, he's good. Can we go out and play now?
Yeah.
But if you take the field Saturday or Sunday and he's still in the same position or condition he's in right now, I don't know. Does that change anything with the mindset of somebody going out there and playing of like, wow, we still don't know what's going on with this guy, as opposed to, hey, this guy's pulled through and he's talking and hanging out with his family and okay, let's go play ball.
Yeah. No, I think you mentioned earlier. Okay, early on, I think Josh said early on, first couple snaps or when you're on the warm of the field, maybe you have the feelings, but. A couple minutes in, it gets back to playing football, and you're used to it. And I would guess that a lot of those thoughts escape your mind.
You just almost don't have a choice when you're on the field.
You don't.
Watching at home, you definitely could, but when you're on the field, everything moves too fast. I mean, which makes it just even. That's not a judgment. That's just I don't know how you split that if you can't have 100% of your focus on the other 21 people sprinting around the field trying to hit you.
Yeah, and I think they would. And look, football is going to go on in a few weeks, or at least by next year, right? No, I would guess most players aren't going to be thinking about it at all. But it's still so fresh. Somebody asked me, "He's like, okay, do you worry about that watching your boys play football?" And I've never worried about it. I've never thought about it. They've had a few injuries. I had one that had a bad concussion in a state championship game. He overcame it, thank goodness. And so, are you going to worry now? I'm like, well, if they played tomorrow, I would, but come next September, probably not, because I know the risks. I know, the numbers on the whole deal, and I've assessed it. But like you said, when it's so fresh, it's almost your way your mind works. It's almost unavoidable.
Yeah, absolutely. And to Josh's point, and even yours, I mean, you can't play the game in the NFL and not be focused. Like when you are playing a game that fast and a move here or there is the difference between a guy just leveling you or sliding. Like Jamal Charles was always so good at sliding, like not like sliding, but like a hit would come and he would just slide off the shoulder pads a little bit. So he never took like that direct huge hit. Well, if Jamal Charles had 10% less focus, all of a sudden, that little quick movement at the end to avoid that major hit now becomes a direct hit. Tony Gonzalez always talked about that. He didn't care if it looked bad, like somebody hit him and he was being driven backwards. He didn't care. He's like, because almost half the time I was getting hit, I started to brace and go backwards. He's like, yeah, you can have the highlight. I'm taking my health with me.
I'm going to come back for the next play.
But again, at 10% less here or there, I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be difficult for the players certainly to go out there and do that. But that is the job. That is the job, and hopefully there is news soon around DeMar Hamlin. There in Cincinnati, still in ICU. There's incremental progress that was made last night.
There was another tweet from the Bills a little bit ago.
Yeah.
A lot of the same, but it looks like, again, good direction. No huge updates yet.
Yep. Even Robert Saleh right there, the prep required and the sacrifices the players make, it's a gut punch, and now you got to get ready to go play again. I mean, we'll see. It's a tough job, and they got to put it behind them and focus this week.